Good evening. As you know, tonight is the final night of the preliminary events for this year's running of the PGR 500. Prior to that, PGR eSports would like to make the following statement. All of us at PGR eSports were devastated last night to learn of the horrifying mid-air collision between a commercial airliner and a military helicopter in Washington, D.C. To the families, friends, loved ones, and anyone else affected by this tragedy, we mourn with you tonight. The nation mourns with you tonight. We offer our deepest condolences and support during what is undoubtedly an extremely difficult time of grieving. And at this time, we ask that you join us in a moment of silence as we pay tribute to the 67 lives lost in our nation's capital. Thank you. We'll be right back from Daytona. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome in to the virtual world center of racing, where it's about time to get underway with the final night of heat races, heats 6, 7, and 8 tonight from the World Center of Racing Daytona International Speedway. The final step before we really whittle down this field and begin to set the grid for the first ever PGR 500, the final 39 men advancing into Saturday afternoon's LCQs and Saturday evenings. Dual races will be set in this very event here tonight. My name is Dawson Wise, joining you live here on the PGR eSports Network as we get you set for 90 more laps, 3 more heats, 30 apiece, and some of the biggest names in the entire event are coming up here very, very shortly. Heat 6 is on track first, and that's what's qualifying below you here on the 2.5-mile oval. But I would like to intro my co-host, one of 2 to 3 for the evening, kind of flexible with the broadcast plans. But firstly, tonight, you heard his voice last night. Amanda will be racing on Saturday afternoon in the last chance qualifier of this event. It's none other than Landon Velicki that joins me here for heat number 6. And Landon, again, a very chaotic night last night. We saw several big names win races. We saw Eddie Kerner win the final heat of the night. We saw Cody Nagels reassert himself and win his heat race. But a lot of chaos, ended up with some big names out very late in the race. But boy, we had 3 barn burners last night. What are you expecting out of this final night of heat races?
Well, I'm only expecting it to be even crazier, honestly. We've got, in this heat that's coming up right here, heat number 6, just about the same caliber of drivers consisting in this heat as we had for heat 5 last night, with some coke guys and some pros that are, like we said, on their way there, pros of money racing as well. It's just, it's going to continue. All the chaos is going to, and it's going to be fascinating here. We can't forget that currently these drivers are out here qualifying. That's something we do need to keep our eye on. Right now, the provisional pole is still Ethan Eckert with a 49.107. Behind him is a tie between Kyler Wynn and Alex Coffey. I believe it was Kyler Wynn.
Yes.
49.110 is tied right now. They're qualifying right now, and they're some of the best qualifiers in the field heading out to put their time down. Something we got to watch.
Well, absolutely. And again, in the event of a tie for that second place position, you heard Matthew Baker talk about it last night during heat number 4. We're going to have a bit of a showdown for the pole position and the outside pole position, that being the prime pole position, the Apex Racing Society outside pole position. We're going to have a bit of a race for those positions, or not really a race, but each guy is going to be able to run another lap to try to get themselves onto the front row. And it's a big storyline right now, because if nobody's able to beat that 49.107 or that 49.110, if somebody's able to jump one of these guys out, in terms of Kyler Wynn, in terms of Alex Coffey, or in terms of Ethan Eckert, none of the 3 will be in the race after all. Now, it should be noted there was a penalty issued at the end of last night's final heat race, and in heat race number 5, that penalty was redacted to the 18 of Aaron Brown. So Aaron Brown does indeed advance. We wondered about race control. There was a penalty issued after the race. It was redacted late last night. So Kyler Wynn is unfortunately, as of now, eliminated unless his qualifying time stands as of now as a 49.110. So far, I'm not seeing any that are beating a 49.107. We'll have to keep an eye on it. A reminder here of the format for tonight's heat races. It's the same as the last 2 nights. The top 5 of the 30-car field will advance straight into the VRX Simulators Duels on Saturday evening at 4 and 5:30 Eastern Time, which is the last step to get yourself into the PGR 500. The 6th through 13th place finishers, 8 total cars from each individual heat, will race in Last Chance Qualifier event number 2, which will feature 32 total cars and feature 20 men advancing into that second dual race that goes off right after you get off the racetrack. So an interesting format. 13 guys will stay in, 17 guys will go home, and we start to look at qualifying times. And one of the names that I had focused on was Daniel Falkingham, and I can't see the 1,000th on that lap, Landon, but maybe you can. What was the lap for Daniel Falkingham? And now even Matthew Zwack as he comes across the line.
The exact same time. So I will say Ethan Eckert is still provisional pole with a 107. Alex Coffey with their 110s, and Kyler Wynn, I should say, are eliminated because now Matthew Zwack and Daniel Falkingham have tied for the second fastest time, 49.109.
Okay, so with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, Alex Coffey and Kyler Wynn are officially eliminated from the PGR 500. Their heat race finishes were not enough to keep them in the event, and their qualifying times have now been disallowed. But these two guys, Matthew Zwack and Daniel Falkingham, are now in a similar spot where they may have to race for it when we get down to business here in just a few days. It's actually might be tomorrow that session takes place. We're headed down to the grid. We're going to take you down trackside as we get ready for heat race number 6. A big thanks to the sponsor of this first heat race, Mark Vondell Racing. And Mark Vondell, one of the regulars of the money racing scene, we want to give him a huge thank you for sponsoring tonight's 6th heat race. You'll see another sponsor coming on a little later on in the night, and we will get to them a little bit later in the festivities. 30 laps on tap. Heat race number 6 is ready to go, and we have got you all prepped. Let's get down to business. The starting lineup for one of the final 3 heat races of the PGR 500 week is about to go on the Speedway. On the pole, you heard Landon say it with a time of 49.109 seconds. It is the Matthew Zwack machine, the Coca-Cola iRacing Series driver, and he will roll off alongside his fellow competitor in the Coca-Cola iRacing Series, Daniel Falkingham. And if you'll remember, Daniel Falkingham's teammate in the Coke Series, Eddie Kerner, won last night's 6th heat race. We'll see if 5th heat race, We'll see if Daniel Falkingham can make it back-to-back for 6 Karma eSports. Row 2, Asher Little in the 0-1. Sundrop Chevrolet will roll from position number 3. It'll be Garrett Conrath in the 9, a man who has won ERA events in the past. He has competed for Podium 500s in the past. He's a very experienced racer, especially on these super speedways. He'll roll from 4th. Row 3, it'll be Jeff Merck in the number 60 machine, a guy that loves Daytona. He knows his way around this racetrack. He'll roll from 5th. Austin Green, one of our fellow broadcasters, he'll roll from position number 6 in the 87. Row 4, Logan York, in the 0-2, will roll from that position with Rusty Plant in 8th to his outside. And rounding out the top 10 on row number 5, it's Kirill Kananovich in the 0-5 and Shane Davis in the 30.
Starting off row 6, we'll have the King of Dega Pros Racing, John Ward, starting P11. Robert Wagner will be starting to his outside in the 12th position. 13th, Cole Fitzpatrick, one of the older names of money racing, making his return back to the PGR 500. Matt Campbell to his outside in 14th. Sierra Clampert will be starting 15th. Trevor Kratzer, 16th. Joey Masowitz, 17th. Isaac Smith in 18th. Michael Witt, 19th. And to round off row number 10 will be Taylor Peacock.
Starting 21st this evening will be Michael Meredith in the number 49 machine. It'll be Jeremy Osborne in the 41 to his outside in 22nd. Row 12, Jesse Calloway in the 3, Brandon Parsons in the 15. Row 13, J.D. Larson in the 25, another experienced super speedway racer in 25th. It'll be Jeffrey Johnston in 26th in the 33 machine. Row 14, Chris Taylor in the 48, and Jason Dinsmore in the 62. Row number 15 to be Tanji DeCock in the 54, and George Buck in the 28. Tony Jackson listed on the list tonight. He is not on the grid, so disregard that 31st place car. 30 are taking the grid in tonight's race. We'll get the race info here briefly before we go under the green flag for the first time in tonight's race. It's the same pattern as we've known for the last 2 nights. It's the NASCAR Next Gen Cup Series cars. It's 30 laps of the Daytona International Speedway, 2.5 miles in length. It's 100% fuel, unlimited tires, no pit stops needed, unless you slide the tires or you have some damage. A fast repair in the pits will allow you 1 reset, is what we've been calling it, and a fixed setup race, and an overtime attempt should we need it. And it should be noted, all 3 races last night needed that overtime attempt. We'll see if tonight's race does as well. Coming back to the green flag, heat number 6, 3 heat races tonight, and we will know for sure who all of the drivers are that will race on Saturday afternoon. It's Matthew Zwack in the 18 machine, Daniel Falkingham in the 39 that will bring the field into the Geico restart zone. Green flag, we're racing in heat race number 6. Trouble already on the speedway towards the back end of the field, and as quick as we got to going racing, we're going to put a halt to the activities here and try to figure out where this one comes from. Oh man, it's Isaac Smith, and the rear wheels aboard that 100 machine were spinning and the car was not moving, and that's about as tough a start as you could have possibly asked for if you're a driver in this 6th heat. Let's go take a look and see if we can figure out what happens to Isaac Smith. He's running back here around a couple of other cars. The 64 Joey Masowicz, a couple of others as well. The 88 of Michael Witt, a couple of other cars around him here. Let's see what sparks up our first caution on the banking in turn 1 of the first lap. That's Isaac Smith. He's in behind Masowicz. You see Michael Witt. See the 19 of Taylor Peacock couple of other cars here as well. And Masowicz gets way out of shape right in front of Isaac Smith. He's trying to save it. He's still trying to save it. Oh, man. Michael Witt comes down and gets into him, and Michael Witt's going to be the one that gets into the unlucky Isaac Smith in the 100 as he bounces off the outside wall. Jeremy Osborne gets a piece of that as well, that blue and black Blind Squirrel Racing Chevrolet. Does anybody else further back get a piece? Oh, yeah, one more car is going to get in it as well. And the 33, that's clearly not what's on the timing and scoring, at least not on my end right now, so can't tell which car that is either. But that car gets a piece of it also. So a tough start for several guys. Now, again, for Osborne and for Johnson, that is Jeffrey Johnson. For those guys, certainly not a terrible start. For Isaac Smith with the wheel damage, though, that's about as rough a start as you could ask for, considering he has to tow to his pit box. He's going to lose a lap. He's going to have to eat his fast repair, and that's all in the first about 1,000 to 2,000 feet of the race. Isaac Smith is going to the fast repair. You see Masowicz, it's actually a checkup in front of him. It starts with the 17 of Kratzer, and Masowicz comes down. He has to bail out of the top line, and Michael Witt, I mean, that's a very quick move. I'll show you in a second how quick that is, but not enough time to react. He gets into Masowicz. Masowicz comes back up. Michael Witt goes into the outside wall with Isaac Smith, and Smith collects Jeremy Osborne and Jeffrey Johnson, who's coming along here in the Cummins Ford Mustang right there, the 33. So a 4-car incident early. 3 of the cars, I think, are going to be A-okay, going to come get some damage fixed. But for Isaac Smith, Landon, that's a nightmare start as a driver right there. That's the one thing you don't want to have happen is a wreck in the opening 1,000 feet.
Well, wrong place, wrong time, and about as wrong of a time as it could happen. Like you said, 1,000 feet into the race. It's a tough break for Isaac Smith, but by no means is he dead. He is still alive and well in this race, just albeit down a fast repair. He will probably go at least one lap down here, considering how long the tow is going to be back to his pit box, where this wreck happened in turn 1 and 2 here, but he's going to be okay. I'm looking at some more damaged cars over here. Jeremy Osborne, one of the heads of Blind Squirrel Racing, a black and blue 41 machine. Some pretty significant nose damage on his machine. He should be okay, though, if he can just continue to get it fixed. But I will point out, we saw someone get eliminated last night, Julian Ritchie, get eliminated from a caved-in nose, essentially. The aerodynamics was hurting him so much that he couldn't go anywhere. He couldn't make moves and ended up losing the pack on the last lap of the race. So these guys, it's early. We shouldn't even really be speculating about damage, really, at this point, considering these guys do still have a fast repair if they need it. But yeah, just a tough break so early on into tonight's festivities.
Yeah, tough break, especially for Isaac Smith, who continues to sit on pit road, and his PGR 500 effort's already taking a toll. He's already more than one lap down on pit road as he tows that car back to his pit box. So as tough a break as you possibly could ask for. We take it back live now, lap 3, and it's a very similar story to what I said. I can't remember if it was Heat 4 or Heat 5. We had a caution on the opening lap as well. And I had said something similar to this, and it's, look, if you haven't been on track this weekend, and if you're not a guy like, Daniel Falkingham raced a couple days ago in the Clash, Matthew Zwack a couple days ago in the Clash, like, these are guys that raced at Daytona in a high-stakes race a couple days ago and that do it on a regular basis. But if you're someone that maybe you don't get into these events a lot, maybe you don't find yourself at these kinds of tracks a lot, or in an event like this, the nerves that you had getting on the grid and like, oh man, can we just get some laps under my belt so I can get comfortable? That timer just reset when that caution flag came out. And I'm towards the back. Obviously, our regulars are in here as well. But I'm looking at the guys, like a Michael Witt or a Jason Dinsmore, guys that aren't really used to the field around them. The comfort level is the biggest thing in a race like this. And for those guys, it's obviously not off to a great start. Daniel Falkingham leads the way with Matthew Zwack to his outside. It's Asher Little scored in third. It's actually going to be Garrett Conrad that starts in third, with Little in the 4th position. Austin Green rolls from 5th here with Jeff Merck in 6th. Logan York, Rusty Plant are going to be on row number 4 with Kirill Konatovich and Shane Davis on row 5. Not a lot of change up front, but some movement towards the back. Jason Dinsmore is +6. Brandon Parsons is +6. So a couple movers early, but, not a lot of opportunities to move. And, now, Landon, obviously an early caution. Does this start almost feel like the initial start if you're maybe a driver that, even the drivers that are comfortable, we heard from Matthew Baker last night that Cody Nagels had some nerves going into his heat race. So even Falkingham and Zwack and Conrad, are these guys maybe still a little on edge as we get ready to go back green?
Honestly, I do believe the guys that probably have the most stress on them are the guys that are expected to make it through the heat, like Matthew Baker and Cody Nagels. They have those nerves because they're like, oh, well, I'm supposed to be here and I need to do it. Considering some of the guys in the back, they could be out here. They're like, look, there's no stress on my shoulders. I'm going to go out here and just do the best I can. I don't have any expectations. And they're going to go out and try and do their best. But these guys up front, it's going to be a tall order.
Green flag back in the air, lap 4 on the board. It's a nice jump for Daniel Falkingham as the field flies by the flag stand and heads towards the banking of turn number 1. Falkingham up on the nose of Matthew Zwack. Bottom side now, Conrath and Green. That's a nice duo, but not a lot of help unless they can get tandemed up here and start to roll forward, which they do for a moment. Logan York going to stay home on the top side. A couple other cars staying home behind him. On the top side, but not for long. There's the move by Logan York. He's got Rusty Plant behind him, and one more car is in line a little further back. It might be John Ward in the 92. The captain for Dega Pros. Conrath to the lead. A big push down the backstretch. Jeff Merck going the wrong way now as he's hung out 3 wide of the banking in 3.
He's hung out, but he's going to get a little bit of help in the form of the 79 machine. But now they're just kind of side drafting themselves away. Green and Conrath were able to clear themselves as well as Logan York on Daniel Falkingham, Matthew Zwack. And Conrath got left out, actually. He's going to fall all the way back
There's
to the
trouble
fifth
further
position,
back in the field. Again, this one's going to take place way towards the back. And I think it's going to be the Robert Wagner machine that's going to have some trouble here. And it is. You see Wagner sideways across the field. So let's try to find an angle where we can see exactly what goes down. That's the 17 again. We saw the 17 kind of involved in the first one, Trevor Kratzer. And this is back around him a second time. Let's see. Off of turn number 4, you see Kratzer goes to the middle. And, oh my goodness. Well, that's one of the most severe examples of that left rear quarter panel netcode that we're used to seeing in the Xfinity Series car. And in fact, was a common complaint of drivers that we would see it in that car, but this car has not really seen it that bad. But Robert Wagner right there, Trevor Kratzer, that's about as tough as it gets in terms of netcode incidents. Now, the good thing, I think, for the rest of the field is most everybody else did a good job of getting around this. It's only going to end up being a 2-car incident. Let's take another look at it here, and you're going to see them come together, and I'm trying to find the best angle to show you what I mean. If you're unfamiliar with the term netcode, essentially what we're talking about is, this service registers contact between 2 cars when it's not actually there. It registers that maybe either Kratzer or Robert Wagner is in a different position than they actually are. You'll see it right here. You see there's a good 2 to 3 feet of separation between the 17 and the 21, but it registers contact anyways. It's a really unfortunate deal. Actually, there's another car involved as well. It's the 15 of Brandon Parsons. And another car also was the 25 of J.D. Larson. They get a piece of this. So a 2-car incident is actually more like a 4-car incident. But back to what I was saying, the system registers contact when there's really none there from our point of view. But for those 2 guys, it's very real contact. It sends Wagner around, and it is on from there with Trevor Kratzer, Brandon Parsons, and J.D. Larson.
Yeah, just nothing anyone can do about this sort of issue that iRacing continues to have and most likely always will have. It's not much they can necessarily do about it. It's an internet deal. It's a connection issue between the internets of Kratzer and Wagner, and that's what results when that you have that sort of delay, I guess, in timing, or I say timing, whatever, connection. I'm not an enthusiast of internet. I'm not sure how it truly works, but at the end of the day, it's just something that we have to deal with in iRacing. Like you mentioned, that's something we're really used to seeing in the Xfinity car, maybe even the trucks every once in a while. Not so much these next-gen cars. These have been pretty good. They've had a good run without a lot of netcode, but that right there was a pretty atrocious piece and example of netcodeness. Unfortunately, I'll tell you, we're struggling right now, Dawson, to pull a rhythm down. I know nobody really directly caused that last one, just an incident of netcode, but not much of a rhythm right now.
Well, your leader is Austin Green with 24 laps to go, and there's a look at his paint scheme, the A&A Autotex Ford Mustang Dark Horse. You see the slogan on the side of the car as well, auto repair you can count on. So A&A Autotex getting some screen time here as Austin Green is leading the way with 24 laps to go as he's got Logan York on his back bumper. With Daniel Falkingham running in the 3rd position, we'll have 22 to go when we get back under the green flag. As Green, York, Falkingham, Zwack, Conrath, a very solid top 5. Then Rusty Plant, John Ward, Jeff Merck, Asher Little, and Kirill Kanatovich make up the remainder of the top 10. Currently in transfer spots, +3 for Sierra Clampert. She's up to 12th. And Taylor Peacock is +7, and he's up to 13th. The final 2 drivers into the LCQ race, should the race end right now, but obviously a very, very long way to go in this one. And some confusion up front here as Austin Green and Logan York decide which lane. Austin Green he's standing very pat on the bottom line, and Logan York maybe thought he was going to take the outside lane. York will assume his position now, and these are kind of 2 of the regulars, Landon, and I think we saw this last night, especially in Cody Nagel's heat, where Cody Nagel's, Chase Mistretta, guys we see on a nightly basis here in PGR eSports, where they were going up against some of the Coca-Cola iRacing Series drivers, or some of the drivers that maybe do not race every week. And we saw at the end kind of how much those reps matter, how much that teamwork matters for Austin Green and Logan York, and even further back to John Ward and Jeff Merck. Is there a sense of working together for those guys? Is there some communication there? Is it every man for himself? Kind of, what was the communication like, even for your experience, and what do you think these guys are doing on the racetrack right now?
It's really hard to say, because I know what I did and what I tried to organize, it did end up working out for most of us. I don't really know about all these other guys out here. There is somewhat a general understanding, as bad as this is to say, that a lot of the money guys want to make, or the regular money racing guys, they want to make sure the regular money racing guys make it. That was at least the sentiment prior to the heats. But at the end of the day, everyone's gonna look out for themselves. Like, look at a guy like John Ward, currently outside the top 5 in an LCQ position, granted, but he's someone you got to watch out for in that 92 machine. He is going to find his way to the front, and I doubt he's going to be satisfied with an LCQ position. Watch out for him to get to up to the top 5.
Austin Green and Logan York will bring the field into the Geico restart zone. 22 laps to go. Heat race number 6. Green flag back in the air. It's a big jump on the bottom. Austin Green, Daniel Falkingham get off and rolling. Conrath a little bit late to the punch. And Falkingham and Green are going to try to get up. Falkingham's not going to. He'll stick down on the bottom. That's a really solid trio, by the way, down on the inside lane of the racetrack. Falkingham, Conrath, and John Ward, and Asher Little says, I want a piece of that too. Asher's going to tag along the inside lane as Daniel Falkingham to the point onto the Daytona Superstretch.
Taking that 6 Karma Mustang up to the front of the field, and he's not going to clear up yet. Might be trying to bring Garrett Conrath with him behind him in that number 9 machine, potentially even John Ward. Sticking to the bottom, we saw the bottom was a pretty strong lane here in a couple of the past heat races. That's what Cody Nagels and Chase Mistretta, they kind of stuck down to the bottom. Look at it. I mean, it just cleared 3 guys, but John Ward didn't want to go up. He's going to trust Asher Little to try and push him up to the front of this thing.
Asher Little getting some early reps on the bottom side of the racetrack. Taylor Peacock in behind him, and Matt Campbell starts to come forward as well. John Ward, a former PGR champion, will go to the point as the field climbs the banking of turns 1 and 2. One car off towards the back. I couldn't tell which car that was. I believe it was Chris Taylor. But there was a car off. We're going to come off of turn number 2 and down the Daytona Superstretch again. Field is led by John Ward and Daniel Falkingham. A wide shot of the field as they roll down into the banking of turns 3 and 4. And it's Falkingham on the outside now with Conrath as his help. And they will round this wide turns 3 and 4. You get a wide shot of the field. Top lane rolling. Bottom lane failing to get much going as Asher Little's not yet been able to get connected with John Ward. And the third car in line, Taylor Peacock's not been able to get connected with anybody. Out back, one to the middle, but it's no dice so far. All Falkingham. Conrath and now Green to the bottom up front.
That's going to help out Logan York. I'm pretty sure I saw that blue and black 02 machine. He was trying to take Austin Green's right rear, and Austin Green wasn't having any of it. And now he just didn't want to deal with it anymore. He's going to hop down in front of John Ward, and this is going to make this line move. That's 2 very solid guys down there at the bottom. We saw the connection between John Ward and Asher Little as the lead pusher. Wasn't really working out. Trouble out back. We see you have some smoke back here. Looks like just 1 car off. The yellow flag will not fly, but back up front, Austin Green now side by side, going to have a look at the lead in turn 3.
Austin Green to the lead with a push of John Ward. He'll jump up on the bumper of Daniel Falkingham as the field rounds the final corner. 19 laps to go when we get back to the start-finish line. It's Green, Falkingham, Conrath, York, and Zwack up top. It's Ward, Little, Peacock, Campbell, and I believe Shane Davis now on the inside. That was that car that was in the middle a moment ago, and he has made some headway. He's up inside the top 10, now starting to contend with the guys towards the front of that LCQ transfer positions. Both groups here tandem. Look at this. Asher Little tandem to John Ward. Daniel Falkingham tandem to Austin Green. Shades of 2011 Daytona here at the front. Oh, Little. He's way out of shape. The 0-1 is going to try to come back up. They're going to have to give him some room here. Asher Little, will he get back up? Yes, he will. Really nice job by the field to let Asher Little back in. Really good save by Asher Little in the 0-1 as well to get that car underneath him and keep on going towards the front. Back in the lead. The bottom lane is really stalled out now. Peacock is the lead pusher, but they are 8 cars back. Austin Green, you got to love to see this. He can kind of take a break for a moment, but not for long. Matthews whacked to the inside of the bumper of John Ward. And now York to the bottom.
Yeah, Logan York going to take it. Wouldn't surprise me if Garrett Conrath wants to go as well, unless he's working with Daniel Falking out there. He did not take it. He's going to stay where he's at. Look at the run on the bottom side of the racetrack. Logan York with a look at the lead. He is well clear of Austin Green. What a job by Matthew Zwack and John Ward with the push to Logan York. And I will say that little contact back there, that checkup that was caused, it's impressive that did not cause a crash back there. That was a pretty severe checkup. Guys scattering around when Asher Little was getting spun down the racetrack. Asher was able to save it, so was everyone else. Now Asher had a solid run going, but now is stuck in 17th position. Only 18 cars in this main pack. Sierra Clampert riding it out, but it's all Logan York and Matthew Zwack now to the lead, 17 to go.
17 laps to go. The intensity starts to pick up, and this is about when we saw it last night too. Guys know what's on the line. They know what's at stake, and they know where they have to be, and they see the caliber of guys here in the top 5 and think, okay, I got to start earlier than I wanted to because these guys have gotten connected. It's going to be really tough now to make your way to the front, make headway like a Shane Davis did, but even he fell back just a little bit outside the transfer spots. You have to start trying to make viable lines in the middle now, and you got to do it quick. Look at this coordinated move to the bottom. It's Green and Falkingham alongside Logan York. Green back to the lead. He will hang Falkingham to the wind there off turn number 4, but not to fear. Here comes Matthews Whack. Here comes John Ward the help. The cavalry has arrived for Falkingham. I'll tell you what, that move backfires badly on Austin Green as Falkingham will go to the point. He's going to bring Matthews Whack with him back into 1.
I mean, it backfires, but through that shuffle, he's just probably going to end up in about the same spot he was in. Actually, he's going to drop a spot because now Zwack is clear down there on the bottom. Zwack was getting shuffled back a little bit. He's about 5th or 6th on the outside line, made the move to the bottom. Now he's going to find himself as the lead pusher to Daniel Falkingham. They move up, and that leaves John Ward and Taylor Peacock at the bottom. John Ward not letting up down there. Very relentless job by him down there, not wanting to move up. He's had a couple opportunities to kind of hop up, ride in line for a little bit. He doesn't want that. He wants to take it to these pro guys, and right now he's getting there, but that run off the outside is just too strong.
Big run on the outside off 4, and you saw Daniel Falkingham bring that lane down to side draft. Big move topside. John Ward's going to slot in 4th in line, and a very apt veteran move by John Ward. Again, you talked about him earlier and talked about as a guy to watch out for. Well, now he's positioned really well for this run to the end. He's got guys around him now, and Austin Green and Logan York and a couple of others that he knows really, really well, and that suits the 92 very nicely for the end of the race. But as of now, he's in a dual transfer position. Those positions go back to Logan York. That's where the battle is between Conrath and Taylor Peacock now for 6. But that bottom line, now that John Ward jumped out of line, as of now was starting to go backwards. Now they start to advance a little bit. Boy, Jeff Merck and Rusty Plant and cars back there were having some problems for a moment, and this pack starts to get a little bit separated. Back to the line, 14 to go. It's all Falkingham, but Taylor Peacock, Matt Campbell, and some others, they're trying to make a run at these high-caliber leaders at the front.
They're making that run right now. It's an impressive job by some of these names down here on the bottom, still hanging in there, hanging tough, trying to advance their bottom line, but at the end of the day, it's just not enough. And there's no connection down there on the bottom right now. These guys are not bumper to bumper as they should be. Yeah, we saw Rusty Plant, the 00 machine, tag the wall a little bit. Jeff Merck took advantage, hopped down to the middle, gained a position right there for Jeff Merck, but it did cause a little bit of a stack up out back, almost a crash. Luckily, we were able to save it. Finally finding a rhythm here with 14 laps to go. This outside line is to come down in side draft. Daniel Falkingham still well in the lead out of 4.
Off of 4 and back down to the start-finish line. It will be 13 laps to go here in heat number 6. Falkingham, Zwack, 1-2 at the line, but Peacock and Campbell have held their own despite the side draft, trying to park that line. They're going to do it again here on the entry of turn number 1. Falkingham down to side draft. Peacock leading the bottom, trying to at least hang on to a top 5 spot. Kirill Kanatovic is up here. Shane Davis is up here. A couple more cars. Jesse Calloway starting to make his presence felt here at the front. A couple guys further back. Asher Little's dropped all the way to 16th here in the latter stages of this one, and Asher's going to have to get something going. A guy that's run up front all night long to this point with 13 to go now finds himself behind the 8 ball. Some more cars back there as well. Sierra Clampert was in a transfer spot for a moment. She's going to have some work to do also. Field back off of 4 and back down to the line. 12 to go. It's almost a Sunday drive for the top 3. Not for long, though. Here comes that 19 Chevrolet.
Asher Little's getting extremely impatient in the back of this field. Keeps shooting it down the middle, just hoping and praying someone's going to go with him. So far, nobody is. Just shooting it down every single corner almost to the middle. Now might have some help, but he's going to hop back down to the bottom. Keeping an eye on this transfer position right now. Jeff Merck barely hanging on 12. Asher Little now making a move to the bottom. I'm watching Asher Little back here. Now he's getting side drafted. And a little bit of 3 wide action, albeit it's not going to be for long. Just someone gets sent down the sucker hole right there. Unfortunate for them. But up front still, just Falkingham, Zwack, and Taylor Peacock kind of dominating in this middle part of the race.
Yeah, Shane Davis has tried it a few times now, and it really hasn't worked for him any of the times that he's tried it. In that blue and that multicolored entry, the 77, he's trying it again here. Shane Davis, he's marked as the 30 on your timing and scoring, but there is a 77, I believe, or 78 on the side of that car. He cannot get anything going. He can't get anybody to go with him. With 11 to go, he's got to start to get desperate. He is currently right around that final transfer position. Bottom lane is very separated, but the top lane has slacked off a little bit. They haven't side drafted as much the last couple laps, and it's allowed Taylor Peacock and Matt Campbell and some others to stay on the bottom and kind of fend off that run by the top side and keep their positions. Lap car going a lap down is going to be Cole Fitzpatrick in the 4. He's going to need some serious help now if he's going to make the PGR 500 or at least continue his route off of 4. This time by 10 laps to go down to the final third of this race. It's still all Falkingham, Zwack, and Green. Again, they just look like they're cruising as Peacock and Campbell and others have been unable to get anything going.
Well, they were maintaining decently well down there on the bottom, and now it's just truly dying out. Logan York's gotten clear now, and that'll be your top 5. Austin Green's going to hop down with no help until Taylor Peacock comes back with her. Matt Campbell as well, in the 81. Big stack up down on the bottom. That's going to allow that middle run a little bit of room. Shane Davis is now hung out in the middle. Big check up on the top. Asher Little now making up these positions with a little bit of an X factor back here. Cole Fitzpatrick has a lap down car. That could play an influence around the back transfer spots of the LCQ.
3 wide, 3 rows deep in the field. Matt Campbell took it as well in the bumper of Shane Davis, and that's kind of what Davis was waiting for, was somebody to get in the middle and go with him. It's still not working for him, though, with 9 laps to go. Almost in trouble, man. There was almost some contact between some cars back there. Taylor Peacock, the admirable push here from the 19 with barely any help. He's going to send Austin Green almost to the lead. Oh, man, some trouble there for Peacock. He had to get way out of the throttle. Not sure what happened there, and all of a sudden that progress that they had made is gone. Peacock's going to have to line up with Austin again. Now they're going to be in the middle of 3 wide, and here we go. John Ward, Logan York, the regulars to the bottom side of the racetrack. The Badfast Toyota Camry jumps to the inside, but Logan York is way off of him here in turn 3, and they've got a regular with them. That's a trio against a trio right here. Regulars on the bottom, non-regulars on the top. Back to the start-finish line.
Doing a good job, too. Now Jeff Merck disconnected from Logan York, but no connections up on the top side. That side draft will neutralize them for now. Austin Green, that move to the bottom did not work out whatsoever for him. He is in danger of not making the dual races right now, potentially even the LCQ, if these guys form up on him and start going around him, as Taylor Peacock has just done. There goes Kirill Konanovich around him as well in the 05. But that run on the top is just too strong for the likes of Ward, York, and Merck down there on the bottom.
Austin Green got in line as well, and we were kind of approaching danger zone territory for the 87 in terms of his run. It died completely out. It's unfortunate for Austin Green as he tries to get now back into a transfer spot. He's in 11th right now, but he was running 4th when he jumped out of line. This is going to be an interesting scenario right here. Brief 4 wide. Do we get through it? Oh, we do. The first successful 4 wide of the weekend back around Rusty Plant with 7 laps to go. Back to turn 1. It's still Falkingham. What a good job that line did to fend off Ward, York, and Merck, because they were triple tandem. They might get triple tandem again. Falkingham, Zwack, and Conrad, credit to them. Every time they've had a punch thrown, they've been able to fend it off on that bottom lane, and for now, with 7 to go, they can calm down for a moment again.
Oh, Matt Campbell up the middle, shooting it up the middle with Matthew
Whoa.
Zwack. Garrett Conrad getting doored by Matt Campbell. Still dooring. Still maybe dooring. He's got a little help with Taylor Peacock down there. He had a crazy run on Garrett Conrad, made it to Matthew Zwack's left rear, and now he's getting loose with the push from Taylor Peacock. I don't know if we're going to make it out of this one. We're coming to 6 laps to go. This middle line's looking a little bit shaky. Now Logan York riding high up the racetrack. The 81 kind of bouncing off of both lines.
Dangerous territory as those middle cars are all over the place. Merc some contact from Taylor Peacock in the 19. We look back here for a second. Trouble. There it is. Rusty Plant, Taylor Peacock. Kananovich is involved. Caution flag is out with 6 laps to go as Plant goes hard into the outside wall and Fitzpatrick is collected late.
Yeah, I mean, we saw this coming. We saw this coming. A little bit of 4 wide action. We made it work the first time with a lap car, but in the lead pack we couldn't make it work. There's Rusty Plant coming up to Austin Green, kind of just, it drives himself up into the wall, it looks like. Then Asher Little might have assisted as well in the 01 machine and then just finishes him off, turning the 00 Plant down the racetrack. Taylor Peacock absolutely nowhere to go. Jeff Merck might get a piece of this. He might actually get away okay. Kirill Kananovich, another guy getting a little bit of this as well. Might have net-coded through Taylor Peacock. Doesn't appear that way. He might have a little bit of damage. And Cole Fitzpatrick, the man that was in a lucky dog position, unfortunately will not have that anymore because he got a little bit of contact, some instant points, trying to avoid this one. But we had a good little run there. We finally got in our rhythm, but you know, just in the late stages of these things, excuse me, this is what's to be expected. Desperation moves causing accidents.
We'll take another look at it as you saw Peacock and Plant. Those are 2 of the hardest hits of the week so far, at least that I've seen, and we'll take another look at it here as they work their way down the banking, and you see the stack up kind of started. Campbell and Peacock. Peacock's pushes were not treating the 81 very well, and they were kind of all over the place. And right here, look up top, Rusty Plant kind of gets sucked into the outside wall. You heard Austin talking about it a couple nights ago. That's kind of what happens there. And Asher, credit to Asher, I think it sure looks like he's on the brakes right there, trying to stay off of Rusty Plant, but it just does not work. He gets in the left rear of the 00, and it is all on from there. Kananovich does get lucky there. I think he escapes without much damage. He did get involved, but not a ton of damage. Peacock up off the ground. Rusty Plant spinning like a top, and then watch Fitzpatrick in the 4. He's got the brakes locked up trying to miss this, and I think initially he does, but as Plant rolls back down the speedway, I think he's going to collect Fitzpatrick right there. So Cole Fitzpatrick not quite lucky enough to get past this incident and get the lucky dog. We'll take a couple more looks at this one here as we get ready for a late race restart. And again, watch Little here because I think to his credit, I'm almost positive he gets on the brakes, but as our camera disappears behind the stands, he's trying. You see him lifting out. And by then he's hooked to the left rear of the 00. He turns him into the outside wall. And around he goes, and Peacock gets involved, and man, for Taylor Peacock, it's a tough break. A man that had run a really good race up until this point, now unfortunately is going to have to come from behind the 8 ball, go get some damage fix, maybe even take the fast repair at this rate and try to get back into a transfer position. We're on board with Cole Fitzpatrick. We talked about his run for the lucky dog. And through turns 1 and 2, he gets through the initial wreck. He's trying to stop. He's trying to go to the bottom and bail. And gets a piece right there from the 00 of Rusty Plant. Unfortunately, will most likely eliminate his lucky dog, or will it? I'm not too sure. Yeah, I believe he still is a lap down. Yep, now that I go up to him on scoring, he is still 1 lap down. So a tough break for Cole Fitzpatrick. But as we take it back live, we had a late race restart in all 3 heat races last night, and all 3 had some last lap chaos. And if you're Falkingham, Zwack, Conrath, Ward, Green, York, Merck, guys that have been up front all night in this first heat race, the thought process now, the nerves got to be going up a little bit. You watched last night as Kyler Wynn went from 4th to out of the PGR 500 in 1,000 feet, and it could happen to any one of these guys as well.
There is no guarantee that these guys that have been dominating this race so far, that they will continue to get a good result here tonight. Absolutely no guarantee. Like you mentioned, Kyler Wynn going from 4th to 14th and eliminated from the PGR 500. I guess technically by the likes of Daniel Falkingham and Matthew Zwack, considering Kyler Wynn still had a shot with his time, his qualifying time of 49.110, and Zwack and Falkingham swept the rug out from under him in that one. But like you said, these guys are smart up front. I'm assuming they know their position. They know they're just gonna look. If we cooperate with each other, we're gonna be okay. Just nobody do anything stupid and we'll be fine. But there's people back here like Logan York and Jeff Merck gonna be restarting on the outside line, lined up to each other. Those guys aren't in the duels right now. Sure, they're still in the LCQ, but they don't just want that, especially Logan York, just 1 spot short. But look at what he's got to go up against. Austin Green, John Ward, Garrett Conrath, Matthew Zwack, and Daniel Falkingham. Do we think he can do it? I'm not sure. And then you got Kirill Kananovich behind there, too. one of the Team Conti drivers in the 05 machine, he's not going to be waiting around. He's going to be making moves. And further back, like you said, there's a few other guys. I want to say J.D. Larson, someone that's been a super speedway racer for a long time. He's stranded in 22nd position. Sierra Clampert, Asher Little back in 25th position now. Cole Fitzpatrick going to need a miracle, get his lap back. And I really don't have an expectation here. I expect at least Falkingham and Zwack to continue working with each other, maybe Conrath as well. But I don't know if Logan York and Jeff Merck are going to be patient enough to just let these guys run away with it.
Well, Logan York is one you noted, and I will note as well that it's a guy that's very apt in these next-gen race cars, a guy that made the Podium 500 feature a year ago, a guy that's made a run at the ERA feature in the past, a guy that's up front every time this car comes out on a Thursday night in the Intimidator Super Speedway Series. Logan York, he knows what runs to take, he knows how to push, he's very, very savvy in this car. I feel like it fits his wheelhouse, a little more aggressive, a little more rewarding, if you will, to the guys that are willing to push it to the limit just a little bit more. Logan York's certainly one of those, and he's one to watch here, a bit of a wild card as he tries to make his way into Saturday's VRX Simulators Duels. 5 drivers will do it, 8 more will be in the LCQs, 17 will go home. 2 laps to go. If we make it back to the white flag, the race is official. Green flag in the air. Daniel Falkingham off the bottom gets another nice jump immediately to the nose of Matthew Zwack. One of his favorite partners so far in this race has been the 18. They've got Ward with them. Conrath, Green, Campbell are left to fend off this outside line with a push into 1.
Kirill Kananovic did not get a good start whatsoever. It might work out for him. He's going to be third on the bottom now. If these 3 down here, Conrath, Green, and Kananovic get linked up, that line can go places. It's working out for Logan York and Jeff Merck right now. They're now in the dual transfer. There's a little bit of a push from the middle. Matt Campbell, Shane Davis trying to peek down to the middle, see if they want to make something happen. Now they're going to go to the bottom. That bottom line not going anywhere into turn 3.
That's a really, really tough break for that bottom line as they are really getting squirrely. And now Garrett Conrath, Austin Green, you're in serious danger zone. So trouble! Campbell gets turned on the nose of Davis. Conrath gets involved. He's in the outside wall. It's a big wreck in the tri-oval. Several other cars sliding sideways. Big hits out back. Peacock, Davis, Fitzgerald again. J.D. Larson. Heat 6's big one. Coming to the white flag, and did we get there? We may very well have gotten there. I think we did.
We are still racing. We are still racing.
Oh, trouble out back right around the transfer. It's
right around the
Masowicz.
transfer, correct.
It's Masowicz that crashes out in the transfer spot, but boy, I'll tell you what, if I'm these 5 guys, I don't even know if I move. I don't even know if I want to risk it. We'll have to go back and watch the wrecks out back. We stayed green, but nothing has changed. It'll be these 5 off of 4. Ward will look for the win, but they're going to give each other plenty of room here.
Crash in the back around the transfer position. Trevor Kratzer gets turned in turn 4. That's going to have implications.
John Ward wins the heat race. And looking back now, there's still races potentially for the final spots. And we're going to have to go back and look at scoring. We did make it to the white flag. I had gone back as if we got a caution, but we did not. And now we're going to have to sort out some scoring issues as we figure out who's in and who's out. The top 5 is correct. Ward, Falkingham, York, Zwack, and Merck. Although Ward made a move off turn 4 to win the heat race, those 5 are locked into duels. That is official. From there, it was chaos on the final lap of this 6th heat race. And John Ward, that's a big win for him, but overshadowed now by the battle for the final transfer spots. And there are a few notable drivers that are not going to be making their way into that race. We'll allow John Ward an opportunity here to briefly celebrate. But again, I said it before the restart, Landon. Chaos on the last lap, chaos before the last lap, and for some reason, 100 to 200 to even 500 feet short of the start-finish line, the yellow flag just did not come out.
Yeah, I'm surprised by that. Usually, if it's within that range, the yellow would come out. But if the white flag was displayed to the drivers on the track, then in iRacing, it's not going to throw that caution. That had to be what happened there. But at that point, the live race control has no option. They can't throw the yellow flag for incidents. iRacing simply won't let them. But this was a massive crash at the back. Austin Green narrowly avoiding disaster. Unlike Kirill Kananovic, another big name in this, almost getting turned on his roof in the wreck out of turn 4, and then it just continued. There was 3 separate accidents with 2 laps to go and on the white flag. around this transfer position. A lot to go back and look on.
We'll get to the results and unofficially what it's going to be here in a second, but we're going to go back and watch the wrecks first as John Ward continues to burn it down. It's a nice win for John Ward. He got a PGR victory on a Thursday night a couple weeks ago as well. He's on a nice run and now wins his heat race. But we're going to go back and dissect this entire last lap and even lap and a quarter as it started out back around Matt Campbell and Garrett Conrath and Austin Green. This is where it gets going first. So Shane Davis is pushing Matt Campbell, and he's going to get into the back here of the 81 in an offset manner off turn 4. You see Conrad's pushing through him, so not a whole lot Shane Davis could have done here. Oh, man, he gets way offset, tries to get back in line. That's not going to work. He hooks the 81 to his right, and it is chaos at the back. Davis goes to his left. That's the 3 of Jesse Calloway that goes to his left. Oh, my goodness, Austin Green, as close as you can get. Kirill Kananovich gets involved in the 0-5, and he goes sideways. And he's going to actually almost double collect Shane Davis, who somehow makes it through the wreck. Then further up, there was more contact. You see Conrath, he collected another car as well. Oh, man, actually, they're going to collect several cars back here. So there's more even to unpack. That's Michael Meredith. Davis even more involved. J.D. Larson is involved. Up ahead, Cole Fitzpatrick. You see Rusty Plant going by, and then when we got around off of turn number 2, we saw Joey Masowicz have some problems in the 64. Oh, there's blinking going on. Look at this. Guys are blinking in and out. What in the world is going on the exit of turn 2? And here's Masowicz. Oh, man, Masowicz gets turned by Taylor. I'm trying to figure out where some of these guys finish this race to make sure we're not going to have to wait. That was Chris Taylor. He finished 16th in the race, but Masowicz gets turned. And then up even further, there's more trouble up here around the transfer spot as Taylor Kratzer goes around. Or Trevor Kratzer, pardon. But he gets spun. Let's take a look at this incident here off turn 4. And we're going to have to wait and determine here if the car that got into him got in, and he did. Jeffrey Johnson. So hold everything here as we are going to wait on some official results. You see Johnson into the back of Trevor Kratzer. Kratzer gets the wall. He collects the 21 of Robert Wagner, kind of, but Wagner's able to drive away. And Kratzer goes from in to out as Kratzer ends up finishing 26th. So a few different guys all get wrecked out of transfer positions on the final lap. So we're going to hold that thought. Now up front, of course, not much in terms of competitiveness. We'll go back and watch the finish because I was trying to cover all the chaos and missed this finish. But it was a good one between John Ward and Daniel Falkingham here for the Heat 6 victory. Although you might be saying, well, why does it matter? Well, it still does to these guys who wins the Heat. Ward and York take a move out of turn number 4. Falkingham and Zwack on the outside. Merck just saying, please don't wreck in front of me and eliminate all of us from this race. And I'll respect Falkingham, Ward, and Zwack and York. They kept it clean. They knew what the objective was. Their race for the win, but don't rough each other up enough that they're wrecking. And it's by a nose for the captain for Dega Pros, John Ward in the 92. So we're going to hold off for a second on results. We may go through unofficial results, but we do await a potential call on the final lap of the race. We'll go through unofficial results as of right now, though, and then we'll try to get a call after that. So here are your unofficial finishing results. Most of these by now are very much official. John Ward wins heat race number 6 in the 92. He's in the dual race. Here are the 4 other drivers advancing to the Saturday VRX Simulator Duels. Daniel Falkingham, the Coca-Cola iRacing Series driver. Logan York in the 02. He goes 3rd. Matthew Zwack goes 4th. And Jeff Merck goes in 5th. Those are the 5 drivers going right to the dual races on Saturday evening. Here are the 8 drivers that are advancing into the Last Chance Qualifier races on Saturday afternoon. Austin Green recovers to finish in position number 6. Michael Witt finishes position number 7. Jason Dinsmore in 8th. Robert Wagner in 9th. Jeffrey Johnson, for now, unofficially in 10th. We await a potential call on that last lap. Brandon Parsons in 11th. Jeremy Osborne is 12th. And how about the run for Tanji DeCock? He is the final driver advancing. And I'll tell you something about Tanji. He was approximately 22nd when they came off of turn number 2, and he makes it into the last chance qualifier. Another incredible drive. Those are, as of now, the 13 drivers in Saturday's races.
And again, as of now, we should say these are the people that will be eliminated. Joey Masowitz in the 14th position. Rusty Plant, 15th. Chris Taylor, 16th. Sierra Clampert, 17th. Asher Little, tough break for him, will be 18th. 19th place will be George Buck. Garrett Conrath, another tough break, 20th. Jesse Calloway, 21st. Michael Meredith, 22nd. Matt Campbell, 23rd. J.D. Larson, 24th. Trevor Kratzer, 25th. Shane Davis, 26th. Taylor Peacock in 27th. 28th will be Cole Fitzpatrick. 29th, Kirill Kananovich, another guy that was running up front the entire race, going to be out as well as Isaac Smith rounding out tonight's field.
So we will try to await any discipline here. Certainly,
I have a call.
Okay, here we go. So again with the update, Landon Veliky.
Yeah, I've been speaking with race control Matthew Baker, who was the RC in tonight's race. Jeffrey Johnson Jr. will be assessed an EOL penalty. Joey Masowitz will be in to the LCQ. Now, again, there is an appeals process, and this happened last night with Aaron Brown. There was initially the call. It got overturned. So as of now, Jeffrey Johnson Jr. will be eliminated from the PGR 500, and Joey Masowitz will be racing on Saturday in the LCQ.
So there you have it. As of now, unofficially, Joey Masowicz is in after he got turned off turn number 2. He makes it in regardless for now. Jeffrey Johnson is out by virtue of a last lap penalty with his incident with Trevor Kratzer on the last lap of the race there in turn number 4. So again, Masowicz in, Johnson out. That could very well change. If that changes anytime tonight or anytime either before tomorrow, a potential qualifying broadcast, or Saturday's LCQs, we'll tell you as soon as we possibly can if that call is going to change and be reflected in Saturday's race lineups. Well, that was about as good as it gets there in Heat 6. The front guys made a very good statement as to their potential to win the PGR 500 on Sunday. Certainly a strong field. But boy, we had some last lap chaos. And again, Landon, one of these races ends in chaos. The transfer spots are all kinds of mixed up right at the end. You're just driving for desperation. And for a few guys like Tanji DeCock, like Jeremy Osborne, like Brandon Parsons, they were out the whole last lap until they weren't off of turn number 4. And that's sometimes how the cookie crumbles in this event.
Oh, yeah, it's always a possibility. You know they're going to wreck. It happens every time in every super speedway race, iRacing, or in NASCAR. There's going to be a crash. It's just up to you on getting your way through it and finding your way, hopefully, into the transfer position like Parsons and Osborne and Tanji DeCock. He did, and Joey Masowitz with the news we just received of Jeffrey Johnson being out of the event tonight. So good news for them. And this was a pretty solid race. It was kind of struggling to get a good rhythm at the beginning of it, but we got that rhythm. Then the wrecks began, and at the end of the day, it was kind of a cakewalk for the likes of Ward and Falkingham, York, Zwack, and Merck. Everyone just wrecked out behind them, so just be clean, be smart, and just understand that y'all are in. Don't do anything stupid. That's exactly what they did. Congrats again to John Ward.
John Ward wins heat race number 6 to open up the final night of these preliminary races in the PGR 500. And again, we'll run down who is in after heat number 6 if you missed the finishing results. John Ward, Daniel Falkingham, Logan York, Matthew Zwack, and Jeff Merck. Those 5 are headed straight to the VRX Simulator Duel number 2 on Saturday evening at 5:30 p.m. Eastern back here on PGR eSports Network. Here are the 8 drivers advancing to Saturday afternoon's Last Chance Qualifier race number 2 at 1:30 here on the PGR eSports Network. They are Austin Green, Michael Witt, Jason Dinsmore, Robert Wagner, Brandon Parsons, Jeremy Osborne, Tanji DeCock, and Joey Masowicz as of now. Again, if that changes and Jeffrey Johnson appeals that penalty and gets that call overturned, we will let you know as soon as we possibly can, headed forward into either tonight's heats or Saturday's events going on. We're going to take a short break. What we're going to do is we're going to put that starting soon screen back up. We're going to go to a short intermission. We'll be back around 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central for heat number 7. And I'll tell you right now, you will not want to miss that one. Heat 7's got some heavy hitters in it in qualifying and in the race. We'll be right back here on PGR eSports Network. We'll see you in heat 7. Welcome back in to the Virtual World Center of Racing, Daytona International Speedway, as we get you set for heat race number 7, the the second to last heat of the PGR 500 preliminary races here this week. And I'm joined in the booth now. Dawson Wise back with you, but I'm joined in the booth by a man who just got out of the race car. He races up here to the booth after finishing position number 6 in heat number 6. He'll be racing on Saturday afternoon in the second Last Chance Qualifier race, trying to continue his run into Sunday afternoon's PGR 500. And, of course, none other than Austin Green joins me in the booth here for heat number 7. And, Austin, a bit of a chaotic finish to that last heat, but you find a way into the LCQ. Your run is still going. What did you see in heat number 6 that we can expect here in heat number 7?
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, first of all, I'm excited to be here. I had a chance to watch the heats the other night, and of course, got a chance to race in the one that we just saw, and it's a lot different in the car than it is up here in the booth. But I mean, you can just tell everybody trying everything they can. The desperation for this event is real to try to advance yourself straight to the duels. I mean, the guys that made it, you could just hear the sigh of relief. The guys that advanced to the LCQs, they're about as pumped as I've seen any driver to advance to the next round. So I'm looking forward to racing again on Saturday. But, man, Dawson, we have got 2 more really, really good heats with a lot of really talented drivers. Excited to see what these guys can put on here for heat race number 7.
Well, again, as we have all week, we'll remind you the qualifying format, and it's going to be notable because there are some qualifying aces here in this 7th heat race. The top 2 overall times from the entire week of heat races, of which we only have 2 left, will lock their way immediately into Sunday afternoon's PGR 500. They will also lead both dual races to the green flag. First, we'll go to duel 1. Second, we'll go to duel number 2. But those results do not matter for them. Assuming their laps hold up, they will automatically race on Sunday afternoon. But the flip side of that is if you run a top 2 lap and you fail to make it out of your heat race on position, if you're knocked out of that top 2, you are knocked out of the event altogether, and that is exactly what happened in heat number 6. Kyler Wynn and Alex Coffey, 2 drivers that ran fast times both 2 days ago on Tuesday and last night as well, have both officially now been eliminated from this event as a result of the qualifying format. They both finished outside the top 13. They are both now out as their laps were passed by Matthew Zwack and Daniel Falkingham. And Austin, some serious aces in this field. Who do we have to look out for here in qualifying that could knock those 2 out of this event?
Well, I think you got to look first to probably the Coke Series drivers, Garrett Maines and Colin Bowden. You know that those 2 are going to put down flyers of lap times. But besides them, I mean, I think anybody has the opportunity. It's so interesting because this next-gen car really qualifies differently than what we see in the trucks and Xfinity cars. And I've heard throughout the week guys doing a couple different manipulations. Again, it's fixed setups, so you can't change anything major. What you can adjust is your steering offset and your brake bias, along with, I think, it's something to do with the front and rear master cylinders. The point is, little adjustments like that, maybe it has something to do with it, but otherwise, I mean, it's like almost driving around this track like a robot. You got to be perfect, and I think if anybody can hold that line, anybody's got a shot at it, but I still got to believe that certainly the favorites are going to be not only the Coke drivers, but also that 77 car that we'll see here tonight, Alex Hill, one of the Nightmare eSports drivers. He knows how to qualify, and that was one of the guys that everybody was talking about that they thought maybe would have an opportunity to go up and steal the pole here in one of the later heats.
Well, a couple guys coming around, so we'll keep an eye on the lap times here, and we'll try to update you as guys cross the line on their second laps. There's Garrett Maines, there's Matt Lee, a couple to watch. We'll update their times here in a moment. We'll remind you first of the format of these heat races if you were not with us for heat race number 6. The top 5 of 30 in this heat race will go right to VRX Simulator Duel number 2 on Saturday evening at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. Again, you saw 5 drivers advance from the last heat. The top 5 in this heat as well will join them in dual race number 2. From there, positions 6 through 13, 8 total drivers will advance into the Last Chance Qualifier event. That will be LCQ race number 2 on Saturday afternoon at 1:30 p.m. Eastern. Both those races broadcasted right here on PGR Esports Network. Everyone else from 14th on back, unless they run a top 2 qualifying lap, will unfortunately be eliminated from this event. Here tonight, your run will be very short. A 30-lap event could be all she wrote for some of these guys tonight as they look to get their way into the PGR 500. Let's get a quick update. Austin, the times on the board. What are we looking at? Garrett Maines, Alex Hill, Matt Lee. Were any of them good enough to beat Zwack, Falkingham, or Ethan Eckert?
Well, I should say, first of all, I mean, it's really not all too surprising when you actually look at the lap times, the times that they ran. And I'm only showing to the 200s right now, and I'm seeing 49.11 and 49.11, which I don't think is good enough to take the pole. It would be close on if that can hold second, but I don't think so because, of course, so far, first and second, I should say the tie for second, we're down in the single digits. Of course, we'll get the official times once we get things gridded up, but Dawson, I don't think so. Still a great qualifying effort nonetheless.
We're about to head down trackside to the starting grid for heat race number 7, which, by the way, is presented by the Rattled Cage podcast. You'll hear more about them later on in this broadcast for heat race number 7. They'll also have the sponsorship on heat race number 8 as well. It's time to grid up at Daytona. It's time to get down trackside and see, number 1, did those qualifying times hold up? And number 2, who is going to be the drivers that advance into the LCQ races and the dual races as we now continue to whittle the field down in the 2025 PGR 500. Let's get down trackside and get into the starting grid again for heat race number 7, presented by Rattled Cage podcast. On the pole with a time of 49.110. It's going to be the former eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series driver Garrett Maines in the one machine to his outside with an identical 49.110. It'll be Colin Keister in the 31. Neither of those times good enough to knock off the provisional front row as of now with Zwack, Falkingham, and Eckert. On row number 2, it'll be Alex Hill in the 77 machine for Nightmare Esports. To his outside, it'll be Matt Lee in the 04. And look at that, 2 1000s separate our top 4 drivers. Row number 3, Vicente Guerrero. You want to talk about gap? 3 1000s back to him in 5th. Garrison Hogan will start from position number 6. Row 4, Chad Doulaban in the 98 machine will roll alongside Jordan Slater in 8th. And rounding out the top 10, it'll be Braxton DeWeese making his PGR return, and Freddie Bassinez in the 54.
Another one of your Coach Series drivers starting back at row number 6 on the inside, and that is the 30 machine of Colin Bowden. Morgan Cook, the Canadian driver in the field here for heat number 7, will start to his outside in 12th. Then you've got Christopher Carter back in the 25 alongside Zach Clater. In row 7, Jake Greenfield will start 15th with William Daniels to his outside in 16th. Jack Long back in 17th with Chris Davis back in 18th. It's going to be Manazzi Major on the inside of row 10, and Aaron Ramon rounding out your top 20.
Final 10 drivers in the field here for heat number 7. It'll be Michael Brown in the number 11 machine and Brandon Nitskorski to his outside in 22nd. Row 12, Corey Taylor in the 43 and Randall Taylor in the 6 machine. Row 13, Ambrose Kniebel in the 26 will line up alongside Tony Jackson in the 39. Row 14, Andrew Hansley in the 29 machine will line up alongside Jordan Byers in the 10. Row 15, Mark Person in the 28, Tom Dixon in the 411, and 2 more cars listed, Taylor Nadeau in the 97 and Patrick O'Toole in the 44. 32 cars listed. There's only supposed to be 30. There may be a couple that have not taken the grid. We'll get to it as we get along. Race info here briefly before we go under the green flag. Again, still 30 laps of the NASCAR Next Gen Cup Series cars. 100% fuel and unlimited tires means you don't have to pit unless you have some damage or you slide them a little bit, either getting to pit road to fix damage or sliding on the racetrack. A fast repair in the pits means you get essentially a physical and mental reset in this race and a chance to keep your hopes alive to make the PGR 500. It is fixed setup, and a 1 overtime attempt will be needed. If it is needed, it will be used towards the end of this race. And now, notably, most of our races this week have needed that overtime attempt, but not all of them. Last night, heat number 3 does not need the overtime. 4 and 5 both do need the overtime attempt. Well, Austin, we're getting ready to go green. Heat race number 7, and going into the event, when we saw the heat lists come out, this was one of the ones we circled. This is some of the biggest hitters of the weekend, and they all made it into the same heat race. They're all going to be fighting for the same transfer positions.
Yeah, they certainly are. And, another thing I want to mention, Dawson, that I kind of noticed during the heat race that I was in is that it seems like if you're in the top 5, that's where you usually find the guys that really know what they're doing. But more importantly than that, those are also the guys that are almost willing to work with each other, whether they like the guys that they're racing around or not, because they know they're in position. So you saw guys trusting each other early on the side draft. You didn't see a lot of people getting split up front. And I'm curious to see if they do more of the same here in Heat 7.
Well, a pair of guys that know their way around an iRacing oval. It's Garrett Maines and Colin Keister that will bring the field down to the initial start. It's the second to last heat race of the week in the PGR 500, and it's some of the biggest, best names in the field. Green flag is going to go in the air. We're underway from Daytona.
And a good restart as they work down the short chute towards turn number 1. Leading the way, it's Garrett Maines on the inside. And I'll tell you what, that outside didn't get going quite as quick as they have on most of the restarts here. Different heat, different drivers, different approach, but nonetheless, they're starting to make a little bit of a push back now as the 55 machine trying to get something going. Vicente Guerrero, Matt Lee, watch for those two to get linked up, and now See the 08, Braxton Deweese, one of the fan favorites. He's starting to get a run down the super stretch.
Kind of a trio of drivers on the inside there that know each other very well, that being Alex Hill, Matt Lee, and Vicente Guerrero. Really, you could rope Garrett Maines into that as well. Those four race around each other a lot on a nightly basis pretty much. Really, except for Alex Hill, who's been away for a minute, comes back now for the PGR 500 and is still as much of a threat as ever before in that 77, the Blenders Chevrolet, second on the outside now. It's Guerrero on the bottom. Deweese is behind him, and Colin Bowden is in line with them. You want to talk about star power. That's the bottom line right now. And look at the run they're going to get on the push from Deweese. Guerrero will fight for the lead onto the super stretch.
Still 2x2 as they work onto the super stretch with just 2 laps complete. That outside is rolling. That seems to be the favorable lane here. But again, we saw that the inside rather, working pretty well if you get the right pushers. Look a little further back, 3 wide. Here we go, the 60. Freddie Bosnia's in the middle trying to make something happen. And boy, that's going to leave a couple guys out to dry to go to the back up front. Now the inside rolls. Alex Hill goes to the point off of turn 4.
Alex Hill goes to the point of the bumper of Garrett Maines. It's Guerrero on the bottom, still with Deweese and Bowden, and a couple more cars coming along with them on that inside lane. Looks like Jake Greenfield may be one of those cars. Along the inside of the racetrack in the 89, that bright orange machine. Guerrero gets another run. It's Deweese pushing to the back of him, and I'll tell you what, Braxton Deweese, he's put on a nice show so far. The Interstate Ford Mustang up on the inside lane. He's got that lane rolling in a big way. He's bringing Bowden to the front. He's bringing Greenfield to the front. A couple of other cars out back of them as well. Jack Long is one of those that I noticed. Field back into 3, still all Hill, Maines, Lee, and Guerrero up front.
I mean, the tandem between Hill and Garrett just looked so smooth right there down the backstretch that time. It continues to help them really keep the lead here on the outside, but at some point, I think if you're on the inside, you got to start getting more aggressive with the pushes. Now, Dawson, we know in this car you can push through the corners, but you got to be careful with it. You've got to be perfect. And it seems like Alex Hill and Garrett Maines have that trust. They continue to lead the top. But watch out, Vicente Guerrero, Braxton Deweese trying to make a little bit of a run back down into turn 1.
Yeah, but just no match for that topside duo, really now a topside trio. And really, if you want to go even further back, Colin Keister certainly up there on the top side as well, running the paint scheme he ran the other night in the Coca-Cola iRacing Series Clash. Of course, many of the drivers that were in that clash are in the field here this week over the course of it. Eddie Kerner won his heat race last night after being up front in the clash. Here comes the bottom again. Guerrero, Deweese, Bowden draw alongside the leader, and I think this time the side draft may not even be enough. Vicente Guerrero, the Budweiser Chevrolet, will take his first turn out in front for a brief moment, as here comes Hill and Maines on the top, and that tandem up top continues to work wonders. Matt Lee, he's out for a Sunday drive. He didn't even really have to do much work right now.
Yeah, right now things looking pretty controlled at the front of the field. Further back, by the way, about the 24th position, we actually have a break from the leaders, and that's Ambrose Kniebel, Tom Dixon, Taylor Nadeau, Tony Jackson, and a few others. Not sure what happened to cost these guys the pack, but they are way off pace at this point in terms of trying to catch back up to the leaders, so they're going to need a caution if they want a shot at, or I guess I should say any shot at advancing. But either way, back up front, watch out! Vicente trying to hold on to it here. He's on the apron. Can he save it?
Oh, man, that's an all-star save by Vicente Guerrero. Now we'll look back through the field. Did everybody keep it going? You bet they did. Masterful work by the entire front pack in here in heat number 7 to avoid complete disaster. If Guerrero goes around at that spot in the racetrack, that would have been easily the biggest incident of any of the heat races. It allows Hill to go back to the lead, but I got to imagine everyone in this front pack just breathed a huge sigh of relief.
Yeah, that was a close call for sure, and you're going to see a couple more of those here before we're done with the next 25 laps here in heat race number 7. But either way, still 2x2 down the super stretch. Guerrero has been the man leading the bottom. Alex Hill, he's been trying to decide what he wants to do, but for the most part, he's been comfortable working up top with Garrett. And then further back there, looks like Matt Lee maybe ducking out for a little bit of air. Colin Keister, looks like he's okay with following that 04 for now, but I mean, still 2x2, Dawson. At what point here do we start seeing guys further towards the back make these 3 wide moves?
Well, I kind of noted it in the 6th heat race with about 15 laps to go, and that's if you were back there around that 20th spot, like where Freddie Bazinez is right now. You see him go to the middle. If you get back to that spot with 15 laps to go, you really have no choice. You have to do something. You have to make something happen if you're going to make an attempt at this race. And for Bazinez right now, he's out as they run on the racetrack right now in 20th. He's got to make up spots now, a couple more into the middle, right around that middle of the pack area. Now there's going to be a bit of an exodus down to the middle as Slater went. Now Bowden kind of bullied his way up and, oh man, ended that middle's run with Minotzi Major, a couple of other cars there as well, Morgan Cook. And I can't imagine they're going to be very happy with the BuildSubmarines.com Ford Mustang for a little bit of bullying right there in the middle.
Yeah, they're not going to be too happy because it killed the momentum of that line. They were starting to make a charge towards the front, but Colin Bowden was having none of that, and it's also hurt the inside line here just a little bit. But, you know, I think for Braxton Deweese here, he's just kind of at that point where you stall out on temps. You can only push so much, and this outside's just going to keep doing what they're doing right here. Drop down the side draft, pull the inside back to the corners, and then they get all the momentum in the world on the straights. Garrett has the advantage of being able to cool a little bit easier by being in that high lane as the lead pusher, and I think it's going to take somebody else jumping down in front of this 14 machine of Vicente Guerrero to get this inside to roll any further.
Oh, man, look at that jockeying back around Matley and Colin Keister, third and fourth on the outside. Keister, I don't know if he appreciates how much Matley was off the gas. Deweese is going to actually take advantage, jump up in line. Now it's Guerrero with a huge push there from Colin Bowden. Shoots the Budweiser Chevrolet forward. Jake Greenfield coming along as well as Jack Long a little further back on that inside lane. A couple more cars trying to come along with them on that bottom side as they try to get something going, because back there around Carter, Cook, Ramon, Bassinez, those guys still aren't in the race. They're still having to make something happen, and they're starting to not really run out of time, but it's getting down to the middle stages of the race. If it's going to stay green, you got to make something happen. And so far, I mean, Bassinez has tried 4 times. No dice in the middle. Again, another failed attempt for the 60 car.
And back up front, boy, Bowden is pushing for all he's worth. And, you know, I was wondering, Dawson, if maybe, whoa, man, that was a close call off of 4. Guerrero and Bowden, I think Bowden was about to run out of temps, was trying to give one last shove to the 14 of Guerrero. It's not enough to get him clear, but the point I was getting ready to make is I think maybe Braxton Deweese shuffled up because he realized that line wasn't going to go any further with the temps he had, and by shuffling Bowden up there to the back bumper of the 14, it gave them another chance. They got close, Dawson, and it was only 2 of them, so I think if they could have got that third car a little bit more help, maybe from Jake Greenfield, then they could have got to the front. No dice, though, this time as they stay 2 by 2 down the super stretch, and we're going to be coming up on just 20 laps to go next time.
Yeah, all of a sudden the laps starting to fly by. A rhythm established here in this 7th heat race. Didn't feel like we ever had one in that 6th heat race, and these guys are ticking off laps, and it's not that they're logging them. They're definitely competitive. I mean, you see the pushes that Maines and Deweese and Bowden were all giving to their respective cars that were in front of them. This is not calm racing. It may look calm, but I promise you it's not in the race car right now, especially not here at the front. And again, we look back at Munatzi Major, we look at Freddie Bassinez, we look at guys that are currently not in transfer positions, and they continue to ride because they can't get enough momentum going forward. Now, in the 6th heat race, Taylor Peacock, Matt Campbell, Shane Davis, they tried and tried and tried again to get that middle to work, and eventually they got some takers, and that's when they all got to the front. Davis and Campbell unfortunately get eliminated in that 6th heat race. But once they got some takers, they rocketed to the front of the field. With a side draft the way it is, with the runs the way they've been in this race, the pushing up front, it's going to be awfully tough to get anything going through that middle lane.
Yeah, it absolutely is, and I think, whoa, man, big checkup on the outside. Watch this. It's starting to stack up.
Oh, no, trouble!
There it goes. 25 car around out of the tri-oval. Caution is out. We got another one sliding further up. I believe that's the 11 machine with a big hit to the outside wall. Who's all going to miss this? Yeah, that's the 60 of Freddie Bosnez. We had a couple others involved.
Oh, now here comes the second pack in, and a car from the second pack gets involved as well. It might have been Tom Dixon. We'll have to take a look at that here in just a moment, but we'll go back and see what happened, and it starts with that checkup, and actually caught it at a great time here up at the front of the field. The checkup starts near the front as, a split. It was Colin Keister up front with the 55 entry that was behind him for that entire run. It kind of gets out of line right here. That is Garrison Hogan, labeled as the 3 in the timing and scoring, but it's the 55 on the car. He's going to get a push, actually, from Jordan Slater out back, and he has to take the run somewhere. Goes to the right rear of Keister. Keister, props to him, gives up the line, but as Garrison Hogan starts to check up, Slater starts to check up, Carter's on the brakes, and not enough real estate. Munatzi Major into the back of Christopher Carter. It's going to shoot him to his left. And from there, not much room for many of these guys to go. You see Bassinez getting involved. You see the 36 getting involved as well. That's Aaron Ramon. As Major slides back up, one more car involved as well. It might have been the 43 of Corey Taylor. Bassinez gets another piece of it. As they slide to a stop, Carter, Major, and the 11 that you mentioned, Austin, Michael Brown, get the worst of that. And then, as the second pack comes up, oh man, Michael Brown's rolling off the wall, and he gets hit by one more car. Couldn't tell which car that was. It's a tough break, but as we've seen all week, Austin, it's 2 things happening at once. It's the stack up in front, it's Major going to the middle, they run out of real estate, and it causes our first major incident here of heat number 7.
Absolutely. And I mean, in fairness to Minazzi Major, it looked like he was getting pushed into it kind of by Freddie Bosnez, which no, necessarily fault of Freddie in that either. It's just when you have this much pushing and shoving in these cars and then you get a checkup, that's usually the result, a chain reaction that ultimately leads to a wreck somewhere in the pack. This one luckily happens a little bit further back, so it doesn't take out any of your front runners, but I mean, still some really, really good race cars torn up in this one. And yeah, Dawson, I feel pretty bad here from Michael Brown. I mean, he could not catch a break. He's going to get tagged multiple times there, kind of at the end of the first wreck. And then you said it, at this point, you're just kind of waiting. He thinks that everybody's gone. And then here comes the second pack right as he starts to back up and gets clipped again. So I'm sure he'll have to use his one fast repair here tonight, as will maybe a couple of the others involved. But I mean, when you have to make up track position, it's one thing. To try to do it with less than 20 laps to go in fields this competitive, it's going to be a really, really tough ask for a lot of these guys here as we go through the rest of heat number 7.
We're going to wait and see Michael Brown here because I want to figure out which car hits him when that second pack comes along. You're going to see him start to roll off the outside wall. And you'll see one car right there. It's that black and green. I thought it was Tom Dixon on the fly. It's not. Tom Dixon is down below the yellow line. It's Tony Jackson, I believe, in the 39. As you see the 411 down there, the gray and pink and blue car. That's Tom Dixon, so my apologies. I had the wrong driver. It's Tony Jackson that actually gets a piece. We're actually going to go on board. We're going to kind of try to see what he sees here as he gets into this incident. Well, maybe here in a brief moment anyway.
Well, he sees it, Dawson, and it's weird. He's on the brakes. It almost seemed like he was kind of having trouble stabilizing that car to get it slowed down. I mean, he shoots to the outside of a couple guys. It looks like he finally gets it under control. But then right as he does, you see the 11, and he's only got so many places to go. He's trying to go down, and I think if the 11 stays put just a little longer, he barely misses them, but instead he ends up barely clipping them and leading to some more damage on both of those race cars.
He actually gets into Freddie Bosnez at the end of that as well. I didn't catch that part. It was way further up on the replay. So tough break for multiple drivers there, most notably probably Freddie Bosnez in the 60 that was trying to get the middle working, and right as they get it working a little bit, it stacks up and it causes an incident. All those cars having to come for damage repairs. Jackson and Brown by far getting the worst of that one. We'll go back up front. It'll be 15 laps to go, and we go back green right at the halfway point of heat number 7. And up front, it's been very competitive. The drivers up here haven't changed much, but certainly the racing has been very tense, very competitive. At any moment, one of these pushes, I mean, the one on Vicente Guerrero, for a moment I thought we were going to be talking about a much bigger incident. Instead, they kept it together. But I don't know if they'll get a mulligan on that, as we're going to go through the running order real quick before we go back green. It'll be Alex Hill leading the way, Garrett Maines second, Braxton DeWeese in third, Vicente Guerrero fourth, and Matt Lee back in fifth. Colin Bowden is sixth, Jake Greenfield is seventh, Colin Keister is eighth, Jack Long is ninth, and then the Garrison Hogan machine we saw get a slight bit of contact in that incident will remain up here in 10th. And I'll go back to what I was just noting. I'm not sure they're going to get a mulligan for that Vicente Guerrero incident there going into 3 several laps ago. It looked like almost all the cars here at the front were going to be involved in a wreck if Vicente got around, and you don't often get second chances for incidents like that.
You really don't, and that was, again, one of those things where it was a wreck. It just didn't happen, and now they get another shot at it, but I still think at this point Alex Hill has got to be the favorite, and Garrett looks so comfortable pushing him because the 77 just holds such a pretty wheel, and when you have a duel like that, they're really tough to beat. And you know that if you're Garrett, he's probably not going to make a move to the last lap, which is still 15 laps away. So still time, I think, before we'll see the front runners get really crazy with the moves they're making. But before we go back going green here, I do want to note, of course, thank you to all the sponsors of the PGR 500, but more specifically, the sponsor of Heat Race number 7, and that is the Rattled Cage podcast, which is a YouTube channel that provides content for the daily fantasy NASCAR world. So make sure that you do go check out the Rattled Cage podcast on YouTube. And that is Sterling Thess, who I believe we will see running quite a few more PGR events in the future. And again, we thank him and the Rattled Cage podcast for their sponsorship, not only of heat number 7, but heat number 8 coming up just after this.
Yeah, one more heat to go after this one. We'll show you a little bit later on if we get another opportunity. The driver list that will be in heat number 8. Some notable names that still have not taken to the racetrack. Had to wait all week to get on track, and that is not fun, I can tell you, as a driver. Green flag back in the air. 15 laps to go at Daytona as Alex Hill gets a nice jump on the inside and will get right up on the nose of Garrett Maines, although he'll have a moment here before Maines gets to him. And will the run be too big? Nope, they're going to check up. They're all going to allow Alex Hill to get caught up in that line. And it's Braxton DeWeese now on the bottom, but boy, look in the mirror if you're Braxton DeWeese and hold on, because Matt Lee, one of the most aggressive pushers on the racetrack. Oh, now he's going to jump back in line. He's going to allow Duels up with him.
Yeah, I was shocked. I didn't think those two were working together, but, I mean, from the moves we've seen them making, I got to think that they are, and at some point here, you wonder if Duels and Matt Lee maybe try to make a run onto the bottom, see if they can get tandemed up with each other. But up front, Alex Hill, Garrett Maines, they got lined up again, 1-2. Vicente Guerrero back in third. Look at Colin Keister stacking up this outside just a little bit, wondering if he's trying to shape up for a run. And the first car leading the bottom is going to be Jack Long in the 124. It looks like he's getting pushed right now by the 74 machine. I think that might be Chris Davis trying to make something happen on the inside.
Here come the two Coca-Cola iRacing Series drivers. Bowden on the inside with Keister. In behind them, Braxton Duels, and they're going to take a run here at Hill. Maines and Guerrero. Where does Matt Lee go? He's going to hang tough in line because Jake Greenfield's going to fill the spot in that 89 machine on the inside line. Bowden alongside Alex Hill, but that top line did a good job there in 1 and 2 of parking the run on the bottom. And as of now, they go all the way back to 4th, maybe even 5th by the time they hit 3. There's that tandem again. Hill and Maines tandem together. They're going to have to fend them off again. Here comes Colin Bowden, the BuildSubmarines.com Mustang, pushed by Colin Keister. 13 to go when we get back. The pushes are getting a little bit more intense, a little bit more dangerous now.
They certainly are, and I think the hardest task here, Dawson, for the inside line is trying to push through that side draft. You get tandemed up, you get this big run that takes you pretty much all the way to the front, but then as soon as you get there, that outside line drops down. They start to side draft. It wants to separate the guys that are pushing. But if you can just push that first car through the side draft, it just seems like the lane takes off. And if Colin Bowden and Colin Keister can somehow find a way to do that, I think that these two could very well roll clear and be a tough duo to beat, but no luck so far, as now Garrett Maines going to make a move to the bottom into turn 3.
Again, two guys that Garrett knows very well. Very tight side draft from Alex Hill. That's some of the tightest side draft we've seen all week long, and it works to perfection. Alex Hill parks that run up on the outside. Greenfield gets split. He's going to go in the sucker hole now and start to go backwards, and that's the tough break with side drafting. Is Garrison Hogan very apt? That was savvy right there to get to the right rear of Greenfield, gain himself a spot, and now Greenfield going the wrong way. Can't imagine Greenfield's very happy with him. And now you see, look at Matt Lee. Matt Lee saw that in his mirror and noticed it and went and blocked now Garrison Hogan. He jumped up to where Hogan couldn't get to his right rear. He's going to do it again, and actually he may bring Hogan with him. Vicente Guerrero's going backwards. He's in the sucker hole now.
Yeah, it's the catch-22. If you're on this outside, you want to go down to side draft so you can keep going forward. But at the same time, you want to stay up top so the guys can't grab your right rear. And I think at this point, Dawson, there's no more Mr. Nice Guy. Matt Lee making that move, but I mean, he's getting down to business right here with just 11 laps to go. He had to get to the outside. He had a run. He took it, and look what it's done. This outside is pulling away as Colin Bowden is going to pull Colin Keister up into the outside, and looks like they're trying to form up about a 5 to 7 car single file outside line.
They're going to try to do just that here as they continue to log some laps towards the end of this race. They'll roll down the Daytona super stretch with Garrett Maines, Alex Hill, Matt Lee, Garrison Hogan now 4th. Bowden Keister settle in 5th and 6th. Oh, trouble out back. Guerrero got into one car, and they're going to go around. The 92 of Slater, Aaron Ramon, Freddie Bazinas, Jack Long, and more as they continue to wreck. Monazzi Major, Vicente Guerrero involved big time in the 14. And more cars piling in here in turn number 3. The 39 is involved as well. That's Zach Clater. And that is a big one with 10 laps to go. Some heavy hitters involved.
You knew it had to break out at some point, and I have a bad feeling, Dawson, this may be a little bit of another case of a checkup here down the backstretch going off into turn 3. Obviously, we'll go back and get the replay of it, but I just think the outside is going to start to stack up as they get further back, and eventually that stack up starts to lead to guys getting sideways. And once they do, I mean, there's no place to run, no place to hide here. You're either going up the racetrack or down the racetrack, and you've got cars trying to split it on both sides.
Oh, yeah, and you see it right there. They're bouncing off each other like pinballs, and that means the top lane was starting to slow up just a little. Guerrero into the back of the 36 of Ramon. They collect Jack Long and Jordan Slater, and then it gets big quickly here. You see the 36 get involved. Jake Greenfield got a piece. There's Bassinet getting involved. Oh, man, one car split through that entire wreck. The 009 of Brandon Nitskorsky. How in the world? Monazzi Major, Zach Clater, Tom Dixon. A couple more cars. The 88 of William Daniels. You see Bazinas get even more. That's his second one of the night as he gets piled into by Major. A tough break there. Slater, Ramon get big damage in this. There's Clater. He gets turned a second time. And the Aaron's Dream Machine back there in the 39 machine. It's a nice looking paint. Well, not as nice as he'd like it to look sliding through the grass. But a checkup on the outside. Good call, Austin. That's exactly what happened. Guerrero, Ramon, Slater, Bazinas kicked that one off, and it was big and big in a hurry.
A lot of drivers got the bad end of the stick on this one, but one of the guys that got really lucky through it was actually the 43 machine of Corey A. Taylor. He parks the C's right here, and I don't know how he misses this one, Dawson. He had cars that were pretty much right through. They looked like they were getting ready to go through his windshield, and all of a sudden things just kind of spread out. He shoots through, doesn't get really any damage. I think whatever's on the hood he already had from a previous incident. But you said it, for a lot of the big names, especially Vicente Guerrero, I mean, you almost got the feeling that as good as he's been here tonight, he just can't seem to find anybody that wants to really help him. And unfortunately, once he gets towards the back, you get the risk of these kind of things happening. And Aaron Ramon, that was another one of the drivers I was very curious about what kind of run he was going to put together here tonight. And it's not the way he wanted it to go, but I don't know if this is going to be our last wreck yet or not, Dawson, but a couple drivers that sneak through that, they're going to have a chance to kind of switch up their track position now and gain a few spots through this incident, and that may give them a shot to go up here and try to lock themselves into the duels.
Well, let's watch a couple onboards. You heard the name Corey Taylor. We're also going to watch Brandon Skorsky here as they work their way through. Look at this from Corey Taylor. It's about as close as it gets. Oh, man, as they wreck around him. Oh, my goodness, the last move to the right is what gets him through the wreck, and he ends up P10 with no damage. Corey Taylor allowed the C's to part, but that's certainly a nerve-wracking moment as a driver. The other one is Brandon Skorsky, and he has almost an even better view of this. See the checkup? They start to wreck. He just gets in the brakes and says, I'm just going to hold my line and hope it clears up. Goodness, I mean, that gap was about as wide as his car, and that was all the space he had, and somehow both of those drivers make it through the chaos and now have an opportunity to make their way to the duels or the LCQ races. For some of those guys, though, Guerrero, Ramon, Bazinez, Major, Slater, and some others that were involved. Fast repairs, damage repair is going on right now on the pit lane. Well, it's going to be 7 laps to go when we go back green. We'll update the top 10 for you. Garrett Maines leads, Alex Hill second, Matt Lee is third, Garrison Hogan is fourth, Colin Bowden fifth, and Colin Keister sixth, with Braxton DeWeese back in seventh, Chris Davis eighth, Jake Greenfield ninth, and Corey Taylor, who we just mentioned, is 10th. The last 3 transfer spots as they stand: Brandon Skorsky in 11th, Taylor Nadeau in 12th, and William Daniels in 13th. Well, here we go, and this is kind of the point we reached in the heats last night too, and even just a little bit ago in heat number 6, Austin, and that's now we're into the single digits. Will we need overtime? Will we not need overtime? Now the question begins, will these drivers be able to hang on for 6 of these 7 laps and race this one out without another restart? It'll be one of the first times this week that we've seen that happen, and you know for sure, Garrett Maines, Alex Hill, Matt Lee, even Hogan, Bowden, Keister, you know those guys up here are really hoping it just goes out. They don't have another chance to restart, potentially make a mistake, or have something happen getting up through the gears. They would rather this one just go ahead and end so they can know where they're going to finish in this race and go ahead and settle it out. They're tired of waiting. They very clearly want to settle this thing out.
Yeah, everybody in the heats tonight wants to know what they're going to be doing on Saturday, whether that be going straight to the duels, having to maybe do double duty by racing the LCQs first to qualify into the duels, or ultimately going home, and we're going to find out here in just 7 laps. But don't forget, the guys that are up front here, they're not going to work with each other the entire way, because even though everybody in the top 5 locks themselves a spot into the duels, the winner of the heat still gets $60. I'd take $60 any day, even if that might get a little aggressive with the guy that you've been working with. So I think Garrett, he's been working good with Alex Hill so far. Maybe they work together until they get to the last couple laps, but who knows, Dawson? If we get another breakaway the same way we did at the end of that last heat, we may see one of these front runners leave a guy out coming off a turn 4. Maybe we get another photo finish. We had a few of those last night.
Well, we've already seen it a couple times. We saw it with Wyatt Tinsley and Caden Diedrich in one of the heats on Tuesday night. We saw it last night a couple times with Eddie Kerner specifically going through the middle to win his heat race on the last lap. We saw it with Cade McClenny and Dylan Jones. We saw it with John Ward just a few moments ago. The heat race win still means something, and it's meant something all week long. Green flag back in the air. Away the pack goes towards turn number 1. It's a good start both ways here. One of the first times really this week that we've seen both lines get a good start. Maine's got a nice fire off on the bottom, but Alex Hill matched him. In fact, may have gotten a better one, and his help is there first. The Blender Chevrolet making a statement, but for how long? Here comes Maine's on the bottom.
Yeah, the 2 helpers locked up pretty much, I would say, identically in terms of the restart. They both got linked up quick enough to where both lines have stayed even so far, even as they work down the super stretch. But the outside's got 3 cars tandem. That's going to be more than the inside's got right now. Lee doing all he can, but it's just not enough to hold Garrett out in front. Alex Hill will go back to the point, and the 55 of Garrison Hogan now starting to look like he wants a shot to win this heat.
5 cars now top as Bowden abandons ship on the bottom. It's DeWeese trying to hang on, and he may try to find a spot line, and all of a sudden, danger zone for Garrett Maines and Matt Lee. They'll have 1 car trying to come to them, but no other help here on the bottom. Make it 6 top, make it 7, make it even 8. Back to another car back there around Corey Taylor, and now Maines and Lee, they're going to need some help. It's going to come in the form of Braxton DeWeese. Maines back to the inside of Hill. No side draft that time because they know there's no help. But they may have to do it here on entry to 3 because Greenfield, now Greenfield jumps back in line. Braxton DeWeese, though, is going to come to the aid. It's going to be crucial how good a push DeWeese can give Lee right here on entry. Through the middle, Garrison Hogan and Colin Keister and Alex Hill go sliding through the pack. He's going backwards here in 3.
Wow, I did not see that move coming, and now Alex Hill has to make a big catch as he almost got turned by the 74, Chris Davis. And, man, that may have been a big break for Matt Lee as caution's out. I think we got some trouble here further back.
It's way further back. Let's see.
Oh, big hit, though, on the inside for Patrick O'Toole in the 44.
Ooh.
His Toyota Camry's destroyed on the front end.
Go back and take a look. Oh, man, it's back around Freddie Bassinez again. Incident number 3 for the 60 of Freddie Bassinez. This is back in that second pack with Vicente Guerrero and Bassinez gets turned on the bumper of Morgan Cook. And, man, for the prime Nightmare eSports Ford Mustang, this is a tough night. For Freddie Bassinez, a guy I anticipated wouldn't necessarily cruise his way into the next part of this event, but certainly I thought would be a contender, and instead he's been more of a pinball. There you see, I believe that's the O'Toole machine's on the bottom. That's the 44. Let's see if does Bassinez get past this second part. He does. And O'Toole blinks out for a moment. Jordan Slater involved as well. There was one other car involved also. It might have been Andrew Hansley. But O'Toole is going to pound the inside wall here. He's unfortunately going to blink out the entire time he did it. But look at the wheel damage. I mean, the right front hanging on by a thread. Oh, it pops back on there. That was a weird look, but that thing was bouncing around. And, oh, he has the same thing happen as Michael Triscaro did last night, and that rear wheel was spinning, and he wasn't going anywhere. He's really lucky, by the way. He's got the last pit box on the grid and is able to get that damage fixed in basically no time. Take that fast repair immediately.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm looking back at the wreck, Dawson, and I think, you know, first of all, for Bosnez, you mentioned it, I think everybody had him as one of the favorites to at least advance to the duels here tonight, but he had been on such a heater in the PGR Light Series, and I've heard a lot of guys say that super speedway racing comes in waves, and he was hot for a while. You almost wonder if now it's starting to transition to the cold side. You certainly hope not, but for the 51 here, I mean, just trying to push Freddie Bosnez as much as he can. That's Morgan Cook, by the way, in the 51, and once they start to get to the back bumper of Dixon, Freddie's got nowhere to go. He's got to check up. The 51 just not able to do the same, and that starts to push Freddie up the track. Then they get offset, and once the 51 gets into the left rear of Bosnez, it's on from there, and unfortunately, those aren't the two that get the worst of it. Instead, it's the guy who ultimately looked like he was going to miss it right here, and that's the 44 machine, Patrick O'Toole. Shot to the inside, and right as it looked like he was going to get by the 25 of Christopher Carter, and it looks like that may have been Jordan Slater as well. Get into him, and he goes almost 45 degrees, dead into that inside safer barrier. Broke his right front suspension, though, which better hope he has a fast repair, because if not, with the new damage model, they'll call that quits for the night.
You see him come sliding by Carter right over top of the camera down there on the track on the double yellow line, and it's a tough break for all of these guys that are involved in this one. We'll take one more look at it before we go back live. It's a tough break, especially, though, for Carter, Slater, and O'Toole. We're kind of just innocently riding along. It happens in front of them. And all of a sudden, they are going sideways and crashing here on the front stretch, and O'Toole gets the inside wall in a big way. He's got wheel damage. Again, lucky that his pit box was close enough to where he got involved in that wreck. He had the last one on pit road and could take that fast repair and at least give himself a prayer of making it into the LCQ race. We'll reset once again. It will be 2 laps to go when we go back under the green flag. Garrison Hogan, right before that happened, made the big move on Alex Hill. He and Colin Keister, who now run 1-2, Keister in second, had just made that big move to the middle. We'll see if it pays off for him now and see if Hogan can finish the job in what I would say and maybe this is just me, but what I would say is a pretty massive upset here in heat number 7 if Garrison Hogan can get to victory lane. It'll be Keister to his outside. Row 2 will be Garrett Maines and Colin Bowden. Row 3 will be Matt Lee and Alex Hill, who I can't imagine will be too terribly happy with the 55 and the 15 of Keister. Row 4 will be Braxton Deweese. And the 74, it's actually Chris Davis in the 19 on your timing and scoring, but the 74 on the race car. And in the final row, the top 10, Taylor Nadeau and Jake Greenfield. Last 3 positions in as of right this second. Corey Taylor in 11th, Brandon Nitskorsky in 12th, and William Daniels in 13th. Notably, Vicente Guerrero 17th, Freddie Bassinez 19th, 2 of the bigger names in this heat. The guys that were just involved in the wreck, tough sledding for them out in the mid-20s. With 2 laps to go, you don't really have time. If you're Guerrero, if you're Bassinez, if you're Tom Dixon, if you're Major, Randall Taylor, Austin, it is go time. You have to throw caution to the wind almost here and try to make one of those desperation moves or hope a wreck happens like has happened on the last lap of each of the last 4 heat races.
Yeah, it's definitely go time, and it's going to be pure chaos back there for those final couple of transfer positions. And, you know, for Garrison Hogan, as we go back to the front here, I think for Hogan, you know, I agree that it's an upset, but, I mean, have we ever seen a move like that in the next-gen cars where the lead pusher splits the leader in the middle? I mean, usually the goal is to jump to the outside, get the side draft, and everybody follows. You kind of associate that middle line with the sucker hole and going backwards, but if you get enough help, it works. Colin Keister, no hesitation, went with that 55 car, and now it's got them both on the front row. But, yeah, I agree. Alex Hill's not going to be too happy, and if he gets back up there, you better believe he is going to try to make a move back on either one of these two to try to win it. But with just 2 laps to go here, Dawson, we got to make it around once to grab the white flag. It's a big ask sometimes of these cars when there's this much on the line, and you know, knowing that your road to advance any further to the PGR 500 could end if you can't make one of those transfer spots.
Well, here we go. We're going to give it a look now as we come off turn number 4. 2 laps to go. It's Garrison Hogan and Colin Keister on row number 1. Who will advance to the duels? Who will advance to the LCQs? And who's going home? Green flag back in the air. A stack up in both lanes. Do they get through it? Yes, they do for now. Off towards 1 they go. It's a good start for the bottom in terms of pushing. Maines on the back of Hogan. Keister, his help not connected to him yet. This is almost 4 cars in tandem as they climb the banking in 1 and 2.
And it'll start to break up a little bit, but right now for Keister, he needs Bowden to get to his back bumper. These guys all should have enough temps to push for the entirety of these next 2 laps. And there goes Garrison Hogan. Looks like maybe him and Keister are working together. Now watch out further back. Vicente Guerrero going to jump to the middle here with Freddie Bassinez. They're trying to make a run through the field into turn 3.
Oh, and they have a huge run, too, back here around that 12th spot. Look at this. They're tandem up. Oh, trouble. Out behind them. It's a couple cars. Big crash. Clater up in the air. The big one strikes in 4, and they're wrecking up in front. More cars involved now. William Daniels is in it. The 6 car. Oh, my goodness. Randall Taylor hits the outside wall a ton. O'Toole is involved. Nitskorsky is involved. Chaos with 2 laps to go. We did not get to the white flag. And, oh, no. Vicente Guerrero, right when we talked about him, and he is wrecked and wrecked in a big way here off turn number 4.
Yeah, unfortunately for Vicente Guerrero, it looked like he was kind of at the forefront of where that incident started. And, boy, he's rolling really slow right here. This is not good news. I think his race and his chances of advancing any further to the PGR 500 may be done. He's limping that car, Dawson, but, I mean, if he took that fast spray already, it's not going to matter. He's done. But nonetheless, I mean, it's the end, right? Everybody's got to go for it. And for Bassinez here, they were doing a great job. I mean, they are flying through the field. But then at some point here, you know, when you go through the middle, guys are going to start to close up. They're going to try to take away that line. And it seemed like the 74, maybe still a gap there, but with as much as Bassinez is pushing, you need maybe a little bit more room to work. I think Vicente may have been getting pushed slightly up the track, and with the 74 drifting down just a touch, I think that kind of took away the room that Vicente Guerrero may have needed. Obviously, he doesn't really have anywhere to go if he tries to lift. Bassinez right on his bumper. He gets into the left rear, and once he does, I mean, it's on from there. And, you know, in fairness to the 74 machine, nothing that he was really doing wrong. That's Chris Davis, and just he was kind of following the guys in front of him, but it's just a product of the end. You know, when you go through the middle like that, Dawson, this is kind of the risk you run into. You got to make that decision on if you're going to check up or go for it. And, you know, actually, I think you caught the wreck that happened out back. I might have been looking at the one up front. Yeah, I saw Vicente Guerrero and Bassinez first. I think you saw the incident just behind him first.
Yeah, and the incident behind him starts when Brandon Nitskorski kind of gets sucked into the outside wall. It's a phenomenon we've talked about all week. We talked about it last week too, where it almost seems like that car just gets drawn into that outside safer barrier. Man, there's some big hits in this one out back. And there's a ton of cars involved. The 10 of Jordan Byers, Jordan Slater again, Guerrero, and Long. Let's go back to the one out back, though, and show you what happened to Nitskorski and Clater, because this is one of the biggest wrecks of the entire weekend right here. That happens back around those cars. You're going to see Nitskorski get sucked into the wall right there. Clater's on the brakes. He's still on the brakes. He's still on the brakes, but you can only do so much. And Nitskorski was unable to turn it off the wall. The 39 of Clater gets into him. And now watch some of these hits in this wreck. I mean, these are violent. Clater in particular. Look at this. He's going to go up and airborne right here. Oh, my goodness. Almost up and over. Almost the second flip of the weekend. Daniels, Hansley, Kniebel, Morgan Cook, Randall Taylor, the 10 of Byers, the 92 of Slater. Again, he's had a rough night. Patrick O'Toole's going to get a piece of this, as well as Aaron Ramon. Christopher Carter trying to get by. He sneaks by on the inside. But this is another instance of what we saw a little bit of earlier in the week and earlier in last week as well, and that's a guy getting sucked into the outside wall. The guy behind him gets on the brakes, and eventually you can't stop anymore. You can only stop so much in these cars, and it is on from there. Twice fold, once up here in the front as well with Guerrero, Long, and others.
Yeah, it's very easy to lock the brakes up on these cars whenever you try to get off the gas to get on the brakes in terms of you're trying to slow down for a wreck. But you said it, that was a huge hit for Clater, and actually, as a matter of fact, it looked like he landed on the hood of Randall Taylor as that car started to set back down. But a big incident that's going to take out a lot of cars, and the ones that survive it, again, still just, I mean, almost a monumental task to try to come from the track position you've lost back to the top 5, even the top 13 in just the span of 2 laps. These guys are certainly going to need a miracle, Dawson, but we only get one attempt at a green-white checkered, and that's a lot to ask for here. I just don't know if it's going to happen, but what we are going to see is a phenomenal battle up front. You've still got all the big names inside the top 5, and Garrett Maines, he seems to always find a way to win these things, and no shock that he leads the way here with 2 laps to go at Daytona when we grab the green.
So now we are into overtime. Let's remind you of the overtime rules. The only time a caution will be thrown on this first lap of this overtime attempt is that the wreck happens up towards the front of the field. If we wreck out back, we are going to say, never mind, we're going to try to race this out under green. If the white flag is taken, the race is official. Forget everything I just said, because we're going to race it out like normal. So the only time a caution will come out is here on this first of 2 laps, and it's only if a crash happens at the front. From there, the iRacing scoring will be allowed to take control of the final results of this race. It will be scored as iRacing scores it, and we'll have to go through the results that way. Obviously, these guys at the front absolutely hope that they don't need that, and then we just go ahead and take the white flag, because I can tell you, and I've been in this spot as a driver, Austin, I know you have too, when races end under caution, the scoring gets mixed up. There's a whole lot of scoring disputes, and iRacing can sometimes mess it up and get it wrong, and that can lead to some controversy one way or the other. These guys would much rather settle it the old-fashioned way under green.
And it's extremely frustrating, too, as a driver, especially if you're not one of the ones in a transfer position, because you're sitting there saying, why can't we just race it out? I didn't even get a chance to go for it here. And that's the other disadvantage of when you start finding yourself further towards the back, especially in late race restart scenarios. But I think these guys can hold it together here for the first lap. It's going to be interesting to see some of the guys such as Alex Hill, Colin Bowden, even Freddie Bosnez. They're either going to have to try to get up to the top pretty quickly, or I think that they may try to create their own lane here in the middle. We'll see what they decide to do, Dawson. 2-lap shootout. Here we go.
Green flag back in the air. It's overtime at Daytona, and this time the bottom gets going and the top line checks up. Everybody gets it going. Oh, man, Garrison Hogan, that was a close call. He either missed a gear. Oh, man, now he almost gets turned. Now he turns Matt Lee. Around goes the 0-4. No caution flag. We're going to race it out so we keep it up front. But Matt Lee goes the wrong way, and that may be all she wrote for the 0-4 machine. Off the 2, Garrett Main's going to start to block. He blocks Bowden on the bottom with Hill and Bassinez. Hogan coming back topside. Bowden's going to go out to the fence. Main's hung out on the backstretch.
Boy, Mange tried to slam the door, but he just couldn't do it. That lines him up with the guy that he had been pushing so much earlier, Alex Hill. These two will stick together, but for how long? Up top, Colin Bowden leads. Garrison Hogan, they're getting pushed by Colin Keister. Drag race off at turn 4, coming to the white flag.
Oh, man, and now the nerves begin for these guys as they head back towards the white flag. Can they get there? And then from there, what will happen? White flag in the air, 1 lap to go in heat race number 7, and as the field works down towards 1, Bowden crosses back over. Hogan goes with him. This is electric in turn 1.
Bowden wants no part of trying to roll over for Garrett Maines, but watch out. Alex Hilly's got to catch it. Can he save it? He does. They're going to keep it clean on the inside. But here comes Garrett with another big run. Colin Keister pushing the 1 car. Where's he going to go down the super stretch?
Oh, man, almost wrecking out back around the transfer spots. Almost wrecking again for the transfer spots as Bowden through the block. Keister side by side with Taylor Nadeau. It's tandem racing in turn 3. Look out for the bottom. Tom Dixon. Oh, no! Trouble right around Dixon. Bassinez. Hogan collected. They're out of it. Off turn 4. We're going to have to look back at the transfer spots. They scramble. They jockey side by side for the win in heat number 7, and the winner is... Oh, my goodness, it's close. It's Garrett Maines by a bumper over Colin Bowden.
Garrett got a little physical with Colin coming to the line, but that is another photo finish for the weekend. How close was it? Well, it's less than 100th of a second for unofficial scoring. What a win for Garrett Maines. Bowden with a great runner-up. Alex Hill rounding out the podium. And how about this? Munatsi Major and Christopher Carter, maybe 2 of the more dark horse picks. They're going to sneak their way into the duels there on the last lap.
As we look back towards the back, names in and names out is going to be the story. So we'll allow Garrett Maines to come up here and do his celebration as he does. Let's talk about some of these names that are in. Jake Greenfield, what a run for the 89. He was up front a lot. It pays off. Corey Taylor got through the wreck earlier. You remember that? Well, he gets in, and it may have been because he missed that incident. Morgan Cook was in the wreck 5 minutes ago, and Morgan Cook is in. Jordan Slater's been in 3 wrecks tonight. Jordan Slater is in the LCQ race. Michael Brown, the misfortune earlier of the first wreck, he's in. Vicente Guerrero is in. He's in 11th position at the line. Zach Clater almost got up and over the catch fencing, almost ended up in the parking lot out in turn 3. He's in 12th, and William Daniels, who was just in a wreck, is in 13th. Now out of the race, Matt Lee in the 0-4, one of the heaviest hitters. Braxton DeWeese ran up front all night. He's out. Colin Keister, the Coca-Cola iRacing Series driver, is out in the 31, and so too is Freddie Bassinez in the 60. All of those cars going home after heat number 7.
Very unfortunate break for, again, a lot of the big names that, you know, whenever we start these events, you kind of expect certain guys to make it through, but we have upsets for a reason. It makes for great racing, and sometimes when chaos breaks out on the last lap, things like that can happen, but I'm really feeling bad for Matt Lee. I mean, you know, I don't know if you caught it, Dawson, but after he wrecked, very veteran and respectful move. He had an opportunity to come up and clean out the field. Instead, he kept that car as clean as he could, made sure he kept it off the racetrack, knowing that was going to end his chances. So a really, really tough break for Matt Lee. But, I mean, going back to this finish, I didn't realize just how close this was, Dawson. I think Garrett got it by maybe, I don't know, a splitter. It was not much. I think the gap's going to go into the thousandths, maybe close to even a thousandth of a second.
We're watching the whole last lap. The crossover here by Bowden and Hogan into 1 on Garrett Maines, and then we're going to have to go out back as well. Alex Hill got to the inside of Garrison Hogan, and that's where kind of this started to get out of shape. And onto the back straightaway. Oh, man, Tom Dixon and Corey Taylor got together. Keister and Maines drive right to the back of Colin Bowden, and that kills Keister's run, and that's important because Keister, he's 4th into 3. He ends up out of this thing. Let's see what happens here to Colin Keister. Oh, man, Tom Dixon turns the 97 of Nadeau. Bassinez, Hogan all get involved. Then they wreck up front. We're going to have to go up there and see. So these guys start to wreck. That's Hogan, Bassinez, Keister, Dixon. Then you see the Michael Brown machine. He ends up making it in. Chris Davis gets turned, and Davis is going to, I think, shoot back to his right and collect a few more of them here. Well, maybe not. Davis keeps it going. Do they wreck more out back? Yeah, they do. It's Davis again. And, man, as guys drive by him, there's got to be more guys coming for Davis here, and I guess that was all she wrote in the wreck. So the biggest wreck back there was Dixon and Bassinez. Oh, no, they do wreck again. Jack Long in the 124. We're going to have to go back and see what sparked this. Deweese and Ramon are in this one. So let's go back. Hang on a second. Let's go back and see this wreck. Oh, my goodness. What in the world? This is as they're trying to miss. Oh, man. Jack Long comes piling into the wreck. He doors Braxton Deweese. Doors him again. Collects Aaron Ramon. They're just all trying to stay in the gas and make it back. And None of them do. None of them are going to be in a position to make it, at least not by my timing and scoring, but there's a whole lot of scoring errors, I think, here, so we may have to take some time and sort this thing out. But a chaotic finish. And let's bring up the results, because that'll give us basically the best answer we can get in terms of the finishing results, because scoring can get a little bit interesting right there. And it's going to be exactly the same. All right, so let's go through it. Let's go through the results unofficially here of heat race number 7. Garrett Maines by 2 1/1000ths of a second over Colin Bowden. We may go back and get a look at that here in a moment, the margin of victory. Bowden goes second. Alex Hill somehow, after being sideways facing the campers in turn 1, ends up in the dual race in third. Monazzi Major in fourth. What a run for the 82. Monazzi Major racing in the duels. And Chris Carter involved in 2 incidents in this heat race. He's going to the duels as well. Here are the 8 drivers into the LCQ race. Jake Greenfield in the 89. Corey Taylor in the 43. Morgan Cook in the 51. Jordan Slater in the 92. Michael Brown in the 11. Vicente Guerrero in the 14 against all odds. The wheels weren't even moving on that car, and he makes it in. Zach Clater in the 4 machine from upside down in turn 3 to the LCQ race on Saturday. And William Daniels, as of now, unofficially the final man into the LCQ race.
And the drivers that unfortunately are not going to be able to advance any further, their chances at a PGR 500 for this year come to an end here tonight. And that's going to be back in the 14th spot. Brandon Niskorsky, looks like just not quite enough at the end. I don't know if he was caught up in that last lap wreck, but Garrison Hogan, one of the favorites at the end right there. We thought he was going to be an underdog pick at the start. And boy, he ran a great race, but unfortunately things don't work out for him. Neither does it for Jack Long, who finishes 16th. Chris Davis finishes back in 17th with Tony Jackson 18th. Patrick O'Toole back in 19th, and Matt Lee rounds out your top 20.
Braxton DeWeese finishes 21st. Colin Keister in 22nd. 3 of the names really with Matt Lee that I thought were shoo-ins to at least make it to Saturday. They're all 3 eliminated. Taylor Nadeau in 23rd. Freddie Bazinez in 24th. Tom Dixon 25th. Aaron Ramon 26th. Andrew Hansley 27th. Ambrose Kniebel in 28th. Randall Taylor in 29th. And Jordan Byers in 30th. The 2 cars at the bottom there, Chad Doulaban, Mark Person, neither of them took a lap here in heat number 7. So that rounds out the top 30 real quick. And boy, we got to make it quick because we got to move on to heat number 8. Let's go back and take a brief look at the finish between Garrett Maines and Colin Bowden. The margin of victory at the line, it was very, very close. And let's get a look at exactly how close it was all the way down to the start-finish line. They're dooring, they're banging like old time's sake, like Kurt Busch and Ricky Craven. And here is the margin of victory for Garrett Maines. It's as close as you could ask for at the line. Oh my goodness, it's picturesque stuff. If that's a sneak peek for later in the weekend, what a finish for Maines and for Bowden.
Absolutely. I mean, that was what I want to see for the PGR 500 feature, is a finish that close, coming down to 0.02 of a second. But, I mean, you got to give a tip of the hat to Garrett Maines. I mean, usually when a guy goes to the inside, it doesn't quite work out the way it did, but he got just enough momentum to get a nose out in front of Colin. And as soon as he did, he realized that 17 may be able to make a run back, grab a side draft. So he slowly worked up into his door, made sure that they were kind of locked together, and then just turned the steering wheel enough right so that Bowden could never pull back ahead of him. And man, I think if this was Talladega, it might have been a little bit of a different story. Bowden may have had enough momentum to try to break off and maybe steal that right there at the finish.
All right, well, that's going to wrap up heat race number 7. Stay right there. It's going to be a very quick transition here to heat race number 8 that goes into qualifying here in just a couple minutes. We're going to take another short break. We're going to put the starting soon screen back up, but it will not be long. Go grab a quick snack, a quick drink, get comfortable once again. One more heat race to go in PGR 500 week to set the field for Saturday's LCQs and duels. We'll be right back here on PGR Esports Network. We'll see you in a minute from Daytona. Welcome back in one final time for the heat races for the PGR 500 at the World Center of Racing, Daytona International Speedway. Welcome back high atop this 2.5-mile oval into the PGR eSports broadcast booth. My name is Dawson Wise, and I'm joined here by my final co-host of this early part of the week. We'll have more throughout the weekend as well, and it's none other than series owner Michael Triscaro. And Mike, look, I know your week did not get off to the start that you wanted it to in terms of your racing, but certainly got to be pleased with what you've seen so far on track and now what we're about to see here in heat number 8.
Yeah, well, my week actually got off to a good start on Monday night with the PGR Light Series, but unfortunately came to an end here last night in the PGR 500. But I'm ecstatic here tonight. You know, yesterday didn't go to bed sitting well with me, but man, I'm excited to get back in the groove of this event. We built this event to what it is, and just looking forward to watching this last heat here. And I'll tell you what, on Saturday, man, it is going to be probably some of the best racing we'll ever see here at PGR Esports.
Well, it's already been a week full of bangers here in the heat races. If you did not catch heat number 7, you missed a good one. Some chaos, some big names no longer in the running, in contention, some underdog stories, and full-on chaos at the end. We'll remind you very quickly, it's a very quick turnaround here. We'll remind you very quickly the qualifying format. The top 2 times of the entire week are going to lock directly into Sunday afternoon's PGR 500. Both the prime pole position and the Apex Racing Society outside pole position are actually about to be locked up here, potentially. And here's why I say potentially. As of now, on provisional pole is still Ethan Eckert in the 12 machine from last night's qualifying sessions. So far, no laps have been good enough to knock off that 49.107. There's one that may be close. It's Wyatt Gray. We'll take a look at that lap in a moment. But as of now, Ethan Eckert is on provisional pole, and Matthew Zwack and Daniel Falkingham are the 2 cars currently tied for second. Why is that notable? Well, because they're both going to have to run another lap, potentially, with a tie to get onto the front row. We'll see, though. Wyatt Gray may have just usurped both of them. We'll check here in just a moment. Reminder, the format of the heat race, the top 5 drivers in this heat Go directly to VRX Simulator Duel Race number 2 on Saturday evening at 5:30. The 6th through 13th place finishers to LCQ race number 2 at 1:30 on Saturday afternoon. We have to go right trackside. I said this was a very quick turnaround. Heat number 7 dragged way close to the time of heat number 8. That was a lot closer than we wanted to get. So we have to get right down trackside and get into tonight's starting grid. Let's get down to a car trackside on the camera as well. And now the big reveal. If you're Matthew Zwack or Daniel Falkingham, you're watching right here to see if you're locked automatically in. And they are, kind of. They'll have to race for it. Wyatt Gray is on the pole, but it's only a time of 49.110 seconds. Not good enough to drop into that battle for the second position. And that, ladies and gentlemen, means Ethan Eckert is your pole sitter for Sunday afternoon's first annual PGR 500. What an honor it is for Eckert to be the first ever pole sitter in this race. Let's get to the starting grid here for heat race number 8, though, because these guys have something to settle. Row 1, Wyatt Gray in the 054 alongside the Coca-Cola iRacing Series driver Briar LaPrade in the 25 machine. He's the 88 on the car, the 25 on the timing and scoring. Row 2, Devin Smrecker in the 26 alongside the 59 of Kyle Holden will make up 3rd and 4th. Row 3, it's Trevor Osbernoth in the 89 machine with a Jack Shack entry. Reminder, Jack Shack, one of the associate sponsors of the PGR 500, and Sean Corbett will start from 6th. Row 4, Jackson Anderson in the 83 machine will line up alongside another Team Jack Shack driver, the 23 of Chris Walker. And on row 5, it's Jack Clemens from the NASCAR iRacing College Series and Chris Blanchard in the 9 for Blanchard's Towing, one of the other associate sponsors of this event.
And starting number 11th here tonight, Chad Dullabon. I believe his brother has raced earlier here in this week. Craig Jancic will start in your 12th spot tonight. Zachary Range, good to see him back on the track. I believe in the 043, he will start 13th tonight. Travis Roberto, he'll be in the 14th position. Matthew Patman, he made a Cinderella run last year in the March Madness event for PGR. He will start 15th. Dwayne Young, he'll start 16th here tonight with R.P. Allen in 17th. Kevin Champagne will start in the 18th position, and Carl Lingle rolling off in 19th. And rounding out your top 20 will be Joey Preeb.
Row 11, Mike Davenport in the 55 will roll from 21st, and Carmine Caruso will roll from position number 22 in the 8. Row 12, Richard Wolsifer in the 56, and Alan Martin in the 15. Row 13, Noah Rainwater in the 05, and Jordan Stensel in the 19. Row 14, Justin Byers in the 24, Renee Hasp in the 38, and row 15 will be Adam Tahan in the 7, and is listed on here, James Wagner in the 30 machine, and it'll be very interesting. I don't think Wagner actually took a time or is on the grid. He is not, so disregard James Wagner at this point as well. That's the starting grid for the 8th and final heat race presented tonight by Rattled Cage Podcast. I want to thank them for their sponsorship here of heat race number 7 and heat race number 8. Race info before we get under green. 30 laps in the NASCAR Next Gen Cup Series cars, 100% fuel and unlimited tires. Unless you slide them or get some damage, pit road will not be a place you spend much time in this race. A fast repair in the pits means a reset in this race, an opportunity to keep your hopes alive. We saw a couple guys, including Vicente Guerrero in the last race, make their way to the LCQ utilizing that fast repair. It's a fixed setup race, and a green-white checkered is available. We needed it in Heat 7. We did not need it in Heat number 6. All right, well, it's time to get underway and kind of the final preliminary event. We whittle the field down from 240 closer to about that 180, 160 number, which will make it into Saturday's event, and whittle the field to around 43 cars for Sunday afternoon's PGR 500. Pace car will drop to the apron. Wyatt Gray, Briar LaPrade, they know now qualifying's not going to matter. You're going to have to race your way in the old-fashioned way. Pace car is down. Gray, LaPrade in this field of 30, itching to get on track. Green flag is in the air. We're racing at Daytona. Off the exit of turn number 2 as lap 1 is on the board, and it's already Briar LaPrade in that Ledford Chevrolet up on the outside with the help of Kyle Holden that will go to the lead. Sean Corbett in tow on the bottom. It's Gray, with Devin Smrecker and Trevor Osronoth in the 89, that black and red Jack Shack Chevrolet. They go 2x2 off 4 for the first time. Lap 1 about to be complete.
Yeah, Trevor Astronaut, he's got his teammate above him in Chris Walker. Look for these Jack Shack boys to hook up here tonight. We'll see if Chris can make his way to the bottom and or Trev up to the top. But those two cars right there, you see them side by side. They're going to give these guys up front, White Gray and Briar LaPrade, a run for their money.
Field's still 2x2. No one has yet taken that run to the middle, and it took a little while in heat number 7 for us to see it as well. With Freddie Bassin as being the first one to try it, nobody so far in this race has had the guts to do it up front. Kyle Holden to the bottom to the bumper of Wyatt Gray. LaPrade down to side draft, but it will be no use. Big push bottom. Holden is clear. Gray is clear. Smrekar is clear, and he takes it immediately onto the nose of Briar LaPrade. Gray gets up as well, and Holden now unfortunately going to be letting the sucker roll out back. Almost some problems. It was the 94 machine, it looked like, of Kevin Champagne, who was having some issues out back on the bottom side. Trouble! One car around and into the outside wall, spinning sideways and coming to a stop, maybe, not quite. It's Matthew Patton in the 3, and he keeps that car rolling. Wow, for where I saw him when I first saw him spun around, impressive for him to get it spun back around, but not enough to avoid a caution flag to bring this field to a halt. Oh, man. As we go back and watch early replays of this, looks like there was a run from out back. It was another car from out back. It looked like a 45, but it's not Sean Corbett pretty clearly. The 45 of Corbett's up front. It's another 45 car out back. It gets into the back of Matthew Patton and slides him sideways. First caution of the night here in heat number 1. And it looks like a stack up maybe in the outside line. That outside was not going very fast, and that car out behind Matt Patton, and we're still trying to figure out which car that is.
That's going to be the 45 of Dwayne Young right there. Kind of shoots the middle. He kind of gets into it, doors the 30 here on the bottom. That's going to send him right up the track, and he's going to just kind of hook Matt Patton there in the 3. So some bad luck early here for the 3 of Matt Patton. Then an ARCA break there by, it looks like, the 36 or the 56 machine, I should say, in the teal number there. He's going to come in and give a nice ARCA break to the 3 of Matt Patton. So heavy damage here for the 3 to start the race.
Could have been a lot worse considering how many cars were behind him. He gets to hit in the door, too, and I'm going to be curious to see how much suspension damage is on that 3 machine. And saw him drive away, so maybe got away kind of lucky getting hit in the number instead of in the wheel well. The right front wheel, certainly looked straight. Kevin Champagne had some problems over in turns 3 and 4 as well. Let's go back and try to take a full look at this because Champagne had some issues actually trying to split through that 45 at Dwayne Young. See Champagne out back as he tries to split, kind of gets stuck in the sucker hole, some contact there, and then look at this outside line. It checks way up. Young tries to take the run and drives into the left rear of Matt Patton. Matt Patton gets hit by Wolsifer. That's that 56 machine. And Champagne actually almost lucky, if you will, that he had some problems there in 3 and 4 to where he was behind that wreck when it started, because it started right about where he was running in the pack. And certainly could have been a lot worse. We'll take one more look at it before we go back live, and pretty self-explanatory here. The outside checks up. Patton has a car come to his middle, and this happens. Look at how fast this happens. I mean, from the 45 going to the middle to the incident happening is half a second at most. As a driver, you don't have time to react to that. Patton, there is literally nothing it looked like he could have done to avoid an incident there. It's an unfortunate break, but again, to me, he drives away from the scene. That car is not crab walking. It doesn't appear to have much severe wheel damage, or is it? Well, maybe off turn 2 it tells a different story, and Matt Patton's got more severe damage than I initially anticipated. So a fast repair in the cards for the 3. He grabs the fresh car, but now a different mindset for him, certainly with still 26 to go and not anywhere close to a transfer spot.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, just sitting up kind of all week long and doing race control with Matthew Baker, I mean, it's hard and tough to make some of these calls out here on the track. You can tell by all these replays you do see, you know, one second you're thinking it's on one driver, the next you're thinking that's on someone else, and you know, get in their cockpits, and that's really when you could see kind of, you know, the reaction that these drivers have. And sometimes you're sitting there, you know, pushing and no lift pushing somebody, you can't see the drivers in front of you. So, you know, I'll tell you what, all these incidents here on the track, they're very close calls. They could be called on kind of, you know, either driver sometimes just racing incidents. And you see that here again with some of these reaction times of these drivers. These cars are hard to officiate. I'll tell you that right now with all these big runs that they generate, this next-gen car. It's a fun car, but I'll tell you what, as a race control, sometimes it's not so fun. It's been a heck of a week here, but we've done the best job that we could have done so far here in the PGR 500. And, we'll see the rest of this heat here tonight. How hopefully we can stay green for most of it, and not have too many more close calls. But unfortunately there for Matt Patton. I'll tell you what, he was a Cinderella story back in March of 2024 in the March Madness. I believe he made all the way to the semifinal where he was defeated by Kevin Freeze, who eventually went on to win the March Madness championship last year in PGR. And Dawson, that's coming up here. I know we still got a few more days left here in the PGR 500. This is our crown jewel, but next on the big agenda for PGR, it's going to be that March Madness.
Well, it's such a fun and unique format, and one I've gotten to call a lot of races for, and just being able to watch the race within the race and what guys are willing to do, to go for the win, but also not jeopardize a spot in a bracket-style tournament, kind of like the Midsummer Madness that Denny Hamlin puts on in NASCAR is kind of a similar format where you kind of have a bracket-style challenge, and that's what we're going to have coming up here in a few weeks, and that bracket, of course, will be released here in the next little bit, but business to be attended to here. Heat 7 got into a nice rhythm. Heat 6 kind of had some ups and downs where the rhythm was never great. Heat 7, though, we had an extended period of green flag racing. We'll see if we can do the same here in Heat number 8. Again, sponsored by Rattle Cage Podcast, a YouTube channel. The NASCAR Fantasy World. Go check them out at Rattle Cage Podcast. I want to thank Sterling Thess and all of those guys for their support of Heat Races 7 and 8. Now, a note here before we go green, and this is something I mentioned, I think, on Tuesday, but I've tried to stay away from so to not confuse the viewers. There are some provisionals that are going to be given out for Saturday's event should certain guys make it in. We actually are getting word now. Well, the one that is notable for this one, I'll have a more updated list for you when we go on Saturday, when we get into the pre-race show. I'll have a more notable list of those provisionals. But the couple to watch tonight, Blanchard's Towing provisional. If Chris Blanchard is able to race his way in, there is a slight possibility that Matthew Baker could get a complete revival of his opportunities. The other one to watch is the Jack Shack provisional list, as it's a potential that Devin Ray could get another shot into this race as well. We'll keep an eye on those two storylines as the night goes on. Green flag back in the air. Kyle Holden, Wyatt Gray off and running here on the bottom is Holden. He'll jump to the top, and now Trevor Osbornoff. Oh, man, what a tough spot. And his help is bailing, and bailing in a hurry. But look out back. And don't wait for very long before you go to the top. Here comes his Jack Shack teammate, Chris Walker. They're going to get hooked up on the bottom.
Yeah, hooked up on the bottom. I was talking about them earlier, and here they go. I'll tell you what, they're going to need some help. They're going to jump. The 88's going to jump middle here. They don't have any help right now. Looks like they're going to shoot back right now, unfortunately for them. The top is rolling here early in this heat. Oh, we got a problem. Oh, he's going to hold it there as I believe the 028. So, yeah, Trev and Chris Walker are going to have to make a little bit of a comeback here. They should be fine holding the bottom. I'll tell you what, that middle lane has not been the move here through these speed weeks thus far with this static weather. We'll see if that changes this weekend when we go to realistic, but so far that middle lane has not been the preferred choice.
Well, RP Allen kind of gets forced in the middle trouble. Out back behind these guys. One car on the outside wall, and they're going to spin around with the 44, that blue car that I saw get around. He's actually going to save it. That is Carmine Caruso. It's actually the 8 on the left side. It's the 44 on the car. The 44 keeps rolling, but there may have been more cars involved right behind those Jack Shack teammates we just talked about and behind Craig Jansak and RP Allen. Actually, it was right around them in the middle. And this is the bright blue 44. It's Caruso, and RP Allen, I think, is going to get a push that maybe his car doesn't agree with here from Craig Jansak, or is it something else? Is it the 44 off the bottom? Nope. 44 on the double yellow line. Does RP Allen come down a little bit? Yes, right there. RP Allen down to the right rear of Carmine Caruso. And up into the outside wall. A couple more cars involved in this one, by the way. The 05 of Noah Rainwater. There's Allen sliding down. Jansek on his way by. Davenport is involved. A couple others trying to get on past it.
Yeah, tough break there for Carmine Caruso. I know the feeling there. You're kind of hugging that yellow, and you don't expect somebody to come down from the middle, but it seems like some of these guys in that middle lane just either don't have spotters or aren't listening to, iRacing spotters or something. And, Obviously we have guys not running on triples and some guys run on smaller screens, but with the runs these cars generate, when you're in that middle and you're going a lot slower, when you try to go down and you think you're clear, man, I'll tell you what, it's very hard to get down there, especially with that small gap between Caruso there and Tejan. So unfortunately there for Caruso, it looks like that EOL probably will go to RP Allen here on the second caution of this heat.
Yeah, Caruso gets turned, and unfortunate position. I also wonder what's the comfort level there of the Xfinity Toyota Camry of RP Allen in the middle. It's not a fun spot to be in the cockpit of this next-gen car. I can tell you it's very claustrophobic there in the middle at Daytona. Not as much room to work. And unfortunately there for Allen, you wonder if maybe the comfort level, too, of being in the middle, you wonder if there was an issue potentially there or if it was something else entirely there for RP Allen. Maybe did get a clear call to the bottom. And, oh, yeah, there is a gap there. So I wonder if RP Allen was trying to get into that gap on the bottom. And by the time he gets there, it's closed up. He turns Caruso. But all things considered, unless Caruso has wheel damage, he really only bounced the right front off the outside wall. It could have been a lot worse there for the 44 Penn State Chevrolet. And, I mean, worst case, you're taking a fast repair, but best case, you bounce off the wall, you don't have any suspension damage, and Caruso may have gotten away pretty well unscathed right there.
Yeah, I'll tell you who got a lot of the damage there was Noah Rainwater. He's going to be running near the top of your screen, near the wall, and that 44 crease is going to come right across the track and get cut right in front of the nose of the 05 of Rainwater, put him into the wall. And you mentioned earlier Davenport. Davenport, actually, the 55 Team PGR driver, he's actually going to get lucky. He is going to dodge that wreck and just, man, he's going to hang a left and just miss the 44 of Caruso, and he's going to be unscathed in that one. So Mike Davenport, a great move, great reaction time there to miss that one. And he, as a PGR eSports driver, he is going to be very happy being able to get through that wreck. And he's about mid-pack right now, just about 4 spots out of the transfer position. So Mike Davenport, an excellent save there.
We'll reset the field for you here under the second caution flag of the night. 21 laps to go from Daytona in heat race number 8, the 8th and final heat race of this week before we set Saturday's fields up. And we'll remind you of those start times when we get towards the end of this heat race. Kyle Holden is your leader. Wyatt Gray is second with Devin Smrecker in third. Briar LaPrade is fourth. Jackson Anderson is fifth. Jack Clemens is sixth. Trevor Osmernoth, all things considered, kind of balanced out right there. He rolls from seventh. That'll be Sean Corbett in eighth. Chris Walker in ninth, and Travis Roberto in position number 10. Some big movers in this one. Carl Lingle plus 7 up to 12th. Joey Preeb plus 6 up to 14th. Adam Tejan plus 13 from 29th to 16th so far, and some other cars towards the back. Plus 4, plus 5, and plus 6 towards the very tail end of this field in the 20s. So some big movers, guys putting themselves in position. Tejan, Preeb, Lingle, Roberto even plus 4. And the jockeying up front has not been as severe as it was in heat number 7, at least not early on, and these guys wanting to take it a little bit easier. And considering the fate of Matt Lee and Colin Keister and a couple of others in the last heat race, I'm not really surprised that maybe they want to take it a little bit easier. Now, kind of interesting here, Wyatt Gray, a guy that struggled in the next-gen race we had on Monday prior to this event, the PGR eSports Light Series Championship race. Wyatt Gray, it was a struggle for him. He's looking to gain back that momentum here in the PGR 500, make his way in, race on Saturday. You got Kyle Holden and Devin Smrecker up here. Similar number fonts. You wonder if they're working together in those two cars on the inside. Briar LaPrade up in position number 4 as well. Jack Clemens, a college series veteran. I mean, these are some big names. Maybe not that we had in heat 7, but certainly still very competitive drivers and a lot to race for here in heat number 8.
Yeah, Jackson Anderson's a guy I want to mention. It looks like he is in 5th place right now in that 83. Unfortunately for him, his grandmother passed away last Friday night. Wasn't sure if he was going to make the race this week, and luckily we were able to switch him into this heat. Unfortunately, had to attend the services for his grandmother, so prayers to Jackson Anderson and his family. He's racing with a heavy heart tonight. Would love to see if he can race his way into the PGR 500 Sunday.
Yeah, certainly our condolences, our thoughts and prayers to him and his family. And yeah, driving with a heavy heart is right. And man, what a moment it would be for him if he was able to race into Saturday's Duels and then from there make the field on Sunday afternoon. It would be a really great moment for him and really for that whole family as well. So again, our thoughts are with them through a very tough time. But Anderson will roll 5th here on this, the third start of the night. Kyle Holden, Wyatt Gray bring the field into the restart zone. 19 laps to go, almost to the halfway point already. 19 laps in the preliminary events. Green flag is back in the air, and off we go towards turn number 1. It's Holden on the bottom. It's Gray up top. Pushers will get to their men. Smrekar on the bottom. It is up top, Breyer LaPrade, and then Clemens and Anderson roll 5th and 6th. Bit of a clunky start behind them. Look at Trevor Osbornaut. Big move with his teammate. Here come those Jack Shack boys. 4th and 5th on the outside.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, the top is the preferred line in this heat. You've seen it at the bottom for a lot of them, but right now that top is rolling. Breyer LaPrade, probably the favorite to win this heat, now in second, pushing Wyatt Gray. And it looks like Clemens, you said, was in the college series. He's now in third, and we have a really good race here on the top of the racetrack. You see the 59 right there, the 59 machine getting pushed there by, can't say that one yet, but Schmecker in the 26, giving a good shove to Holden. They're going to keep side by side with the front here as we go through the trial bowl.
18 laps to go in heat number 8. Now the push has started to get a little more intense. These guys have settled in up the middle. Kevin Champagne and Craig Jancic out back through the middle, and they got a big run doing it too. Will they be able to carry it? No, they will not. And now Jancic will go backwards. Champagne will settle on the bottom. Will they try it again? They will. They're going to hang middle. Jancic's going to try to get there. He can't get clear of Joey Preeb. Champagne has to drop down. And a tough break for the 88 as he'll go the wrong way. Corbett top to bottom, a little further up in the pack as well. Holden to the lead. Smrecker to second. Gray down to side wrap, but that was a little bit too late. He's going to pull the 26 backwards, but Kyle Holden goes back to the point. He'll jump back on the bumper of the 18. Oh, no, Jack Clemens got hung out in the middle of the Dollar Tree Toyota as he is going backwards. He's got help coming to him with range. The 2 cars in the middle, Mike, you mentioned it earlier, has not been a very good formula for success in these heat races.
It really has, and I think that's going to change on Saturday for the LCQs and Duels. Davenport into the wall a little bit. He's going to have some damage there to the right side of his machine, and right now the middle might work here if the top gets a little disconnected. The 7 and the 34 almost meet in the center. Luckily for them, they're going to come apart there, but the middle has 3 cars now. We'll have to see. Oh, there goes the 20 back to the bottom, so it just doesn't get enough help. Zach range to the top, cuts off the 36, shoves the door on him. He goes into the wall. Wow, we have some hard racing out here in the back of this pack. Man, all the action in the back right now, single file here in the front.
Oh, man, I mean, that time Jancic gets the tough end of the stick again. So does Kevin Champagne as they get stuck in the middle. But that was chaos as Range jumped back up to the wall. That was a very tight move and did not have a lot of time to make it happen. Meanwhile, up front, 9 guys clear. This is as close as we've been to logging laps since early in the heats last night. As top 8 or 9 cars sufficient just to ride here and try to get some laps on the board. Oh, trying to get squirrely out back.
Yes, they are, man. I'll tell you what, they're beating and banging. They're bouncing off the wall, especially on the exit of turn number 2. That car's just kind of yanking right to the wall. These guys right now 3 by 3 here in the back. The race is on to get to that 13th spot in the transfer into the LCQ.
Oh, RP Allen's going to get turned to the bumper of Matt Patton. The big one strikes in the trial. Kevin Champagne bounces off the wall. Wolsifer is involved, and more cars pile in now from behind. 3rd caution of the night, and Kevin Champagne, right after he went to the middle, gets the tough end of the 3rd caution, and boy, tough end is an understatement. The McDonald's Ford Mustang may not be able to limp all the way back around. In fact, he's not even going to attempt. He will tow straight to his pit box. This started with RP Allen again up on the top. RP Allen and Matt Patton meet again here in the trial. It's a checkup in the top lane that then leads to some problems here for Range and Patton and even a car up a little bit further as well. And oh man, Allen just gets turned out of line there by Matt Patton as the line checks up. Patton's going to come back down, and as he tries to save it, Jancic turns him into Kevin Champagne. And boy, it is on from here. This Kevin Champagne's going to nail the outside wall. Carmine Caruso involved. Wolsifer, the 0-5 of Noah Rainwater again. That's his 2nd one of the night. Look at this incident for Kevin Champagne. He spun like a top off the outside retaining wall. And they may have very well kept wrecking up in front. There's Rainwater again. Can't tell what other car that is. Maybe I can't exactly tell what number that is. It gets in that ball, that green and black car right there. We'll have to try to figure out which car that is. As a couple go sliding to the inside just to try to miss this big-time incident. This is one of the harder hits of the weekend. Justin Champagne spinning like crazy here all through the trial. Let's take another look from up top. Oh, man, it was bigger checkup than I thought. Patton in the back of Allen. This thing gets going and going fast. Oh, man. Kevin Champagne hits it just the wrong angle. Another car involved as well. Might have been the 24 Buyers. They got in the tail end of that one also. And for Kevin Champagne, it's a tough break because he had just kind of got in the middle to work with Craig Jancic, and right when it stops working, Mike, they get involved in an accident. It seems like it's been a pattern throughout the course of this week.
Absolutely. I mean, I was glued onto the back of the pack. I knew that was brewing here in the last couple laps. These guys all just, they all want to get to that 13th position. I know what that feels like, and it's not easy to make up a bunch of track position in such a short period of time. I was in the race last night, and I had to go to the back for some damage early in the race, and I was able to make my way from the back to the very, top 10 of that field. It took, a couple cautions, and you really got to just take the runs as they come. You got to go top to bottom. You got to avoid these checkups, and it's not easy. These guys back here running 3 wide, they all are racing for the same thing, and you're just running out of real estate there, especially with the checkups. You were talking about I think the black and white car earlier. That was going to be Craig Jansek and the Team Conti 88, innocent bystander in that one too. You saw him going off into the infield grass, and looks like Carmine Caruso again, a little bit damaged for him. So some of the same guys here in this heat getting involved in another accident. So you'll have to expect some of those guys coming down to either fix all of their damage or take their fast repair, because when we go back green here, we're going to only have 11 laps to go in this one. So it's coming down to, we're going to be more than halfway. So, these guys are going to start getting anxious, more and more anxious, especially here in the back. But so far, I'll tell you what, every guy up here in the front doing a really good job of kind of riding along some laps right now. They're all keeping their cars clean. And I'll tell you what, the guy spoke about him earlier, but Team PGR's Mike Davenport, man, he made a run from the back to the front of this field. He's now in the 8th position. So a strong run right now for Mike Davenport. We'll see if he can get that 55 into the top 5 here tonight and advance to the duels on Saturday.
The Tire World Chevrolet running position number 8. You see a close-up shot of his car. And a couple more that have come to the front. Adam Tahan, you heard me say plus 16 last time. How about plus 22? From 29th to 7th as they run on the racetrack. Davenport is plus 13. Alan Martin is the other car in the 15 back here that is plus 13 in the race. 3 double-digit movers. They're all in transfer positions with 12 laps to go. We're going to go green next time by with 11 laps to go. Well, let's reset the running order once again. Kyle Holden is running as the leader right now. Wyatt Gray will be second with Briar LaPrade third. Trevor Oswanath in fourth, and Chris Walker in the final dual transfer spot. Chris Blanchard is sixth. Adam Tahan is seventh. Mike Davenport eighth. Jackson Anderson is ninth, and Devin Smrecker is 10th. Alan Martin, Zach Range, Carl Lingle would be the 3 cars in based on the LCQ spots as they stand right now. But Mike, with 11 laps to go, we've seen it throughout the course of the week. We've seen it throughout the course of tonight. The 11 through 13 spots, they can often get very convoluted on the last lap. In fact, sometimes it takes till well after the race to find out who finishes in that 13th position.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, I'll tell you what, even in this last couple, these guys want the top 5 too. It's crazy. You see 6 through 9, 10. I mean, you think you're going to be safe, but then you have those guys kind of running to try to get into the top 5. Next thing you know, they're taking themselves out of the event completely. So, it's a lot of give and take here. And, when that white flag comes out, I'll tell you right now, it's kind of tunnel vision for a lot of guys. And they're just kind of looking straight and trying to get to the next position. Once you get to the top 5, then you want to win the thing. So, we always want more in racing, and we've seen it here this week kind of cost some guys trying to go for too much instead of just kind of riding and staying in their spot and transfer in the position they're in. I know for myself, I just wanted to get in that top 13. If I got in the top 5, great, but wanted to race on Saturday. Unfortunately, did not, but we'll see. Looking forward to the rest of this heat here. Wyatt Gray, Briar LaPrade, Kyle Holden, and the Jack Shack boys right now all in the top 5. This should be a great finish here.
Well, it's going to be 11 laps to go. We're into the closing stages now of the heat race period of this week. The final race, the final heat, the final chance for 13 of these guys to race their way into Saturday. Green flag back in the air. Some contact between the leaders as we took the green flag. Holden, ooh, that was close. He almost changed lanes before the start-finish line. That's a big no-no. in the rule book, and luckily kept it down. Jumps up now on the bumper of Wyatt Gray right after they take the green flag. It'll be Gray to his back bumper. Oswernoth, Blanchard, Davenport follow. Bottom side, LaPrade, Walker, nothing doing right now for those cars on the bottom. They hit the super stretch, and they're the only two down there waiting on some help to get to their back bumpers.
Yeah, I heard Race Control talking to Kyle Holden there on the radio communication. Doesn't look like there's going to be a penalty, but a stern warning about that for the 59 machine. That might, that penalty right there could end his chances at moving on. We are a train and a parade of cars here on the top, but the bottom is forming. We'll see if that bottom led by LaPrade right now, getting a great push from Chris Walker of the Jack Shack.
Oh, they're going to wreck out back, I think. They were close to wrecking. They don't. Oh, my goodness. They were 4 wide back here around Noah Rainwater, but they all kept it okay. And now we go back up front. Here comes the bottom lane. Brian LaPrade, Chris Walker, tandem up together. Alan Martin coming to the front with them. Another car down there as well. Can't tell which car that is. It might be Carl Lingle in the 30. As 4 cars ride the bottom, and they are going to come up to the front pretty much uncontested. Brian LaPrade's up to 4th. He's to 30, may be at the point. By the time they reach turn 4, Holden, he's lucky to still be in the lead. Shades of David Reagan back in 2011 that lost him the Daytona 500. But Holden will continue to lead the top lane, but here comes the bottom. LaPrade is clear. Walker not quite, and oh man, Chris Walker can't be too happy about that one. Going to have to hope for a good push now from Alan Martin.
Yeah, Alan Martin and Carl Lingle right now going to be the best friends of Chris Walker if they can get to his rear bumper. You saw right there the great push by Chris Walker got Brian LaPrade clear of that top lane. Brian LaPrade now is going to lead him down the backstretch here at Daytona as he is the favorite to win this heat. But all bets are going to be off here with 9 laps to go. It's 9 laps to go, and everybody here racing for the top 13.
Yeah, back around that transfer spot, by the way, Craig Jancic is trying to make his way inside the top 13. He's currently the last man in right now, and he's got some dancing partners in the middle. Zach Range goes with him. Chad Doulaban goes with him. A couple more cars. All of a sudden, a train of cars in the middle, and they're coming forward and doing it in a hurry. Chris Walker gets left in the dust. He'll be well outside the top 13 by the time all is said and done. Those cars are going to lead the bottom now. Here comes Trevor Oswernoth on the bumper of Zach Range. And all of a sudden, we go from log into racing. Trouble, around goes Zach Range. He's going to get off the track. The race will stay green. The Range machine now will need a caution if he's going to win. Oswernoth going to try to block middle. Instead, he'll get a push from Jancic on the bottom. Allen back to help. Up front, it's LaPrade still leading. And boy, if you're one of these top 4 or 5 and you look in your mirror right now, you got to be feeling pretty good that all that's happening out back. Well, Mike, how long will it stay out back? Oswernoth, Jancic, RP Allen coming to the front. 7 laps to go at the World Center of Racing.
I'll tell you what, right now, nobody wants to stick with anybody on the bottom. In the middle, there goes, Trevor Ashford almost off the pace there. He's going to get split by the 88 there, I believe, of Jancic. Jancic wanted nothing to do with pushing the 89. Jancic now all by himself in the middle. Wow, I'll tell you, just all these guys here on the bottom in the middle, they're going to get passed by everybody on the top. None of them want to work together. They all want to split one another. It's not going to work. Now a 3-car train. Chris Walker's going to be the caboose of that one. And we'll see if these cars on the bottom, they're in a 3-car. They are flying. Here they come to the front, led by Jancic. The 3, here comes the 3 of RP Allen. They're going straight to the front, a lot of speed down the backstretch.
6 laps to go. Another car in that group. It's Jack Clemens in the 20 that's tagged along the Dollar Tree Camry. All of a sudden, he said, oh, well, okay, you guys got to run. I'm going to take it too. And he now enters the top 8 on the racetrack. Now it's Adam Tahan in front of Oswernoth, who kind of got lucky. The bottom lane came back to him, and he was allowed now to get back inside the transfer positions. Jancic to the lead for the first time in the 88. He will jump bottom to top on the bumper of LaPrade. Trouble out back, it's Oswernoth. Trevor Oswernoth is around. Doulaban spins. The big one strikes on the backstretch. It's the 83 of Jackson Anderson that gets sideways. They're wrecking all over the Daytona Superstretch. Doulaban, Patton, Oswernoth, and others. The 4th caution of heat number 8, and it started with the Jack Shack Chevrolet of Trevor Oswernoth about midway through the pack and halfway down the backstretch. And he gets a push. Maybe does the bottom start to check when Jancic goes up? Let's see if that is the case down the Daytona Superstretch. So Craig Jancic jumps up. Allen, Walker, they're all still in line. But I think this line starts to check up, and right there you get the confirmation it does. And Chad Doulaban goes right through the back of the 89. And away we go on the back straightaway.
Yeah, check up or not, it looked like Duelbon, he didn't check up at all. He's going to get into the right rear of Trev and Astronaut, and that's going to send Trev up the middle of the track, spinning out onto the apron here on the backstretch. So looks like that one might be on the 98. Plenty of time to check up there, and you're going to push that far off right center. You're definitely going to push the guy in front of you. That's going to cause a chain reaction and wreck some more guys here in the back. Man, Matthew Patton cannot buy a break here tonight. He's been in just about every wreck in this race. And, man, I'll tell you what, these guys all racing hard here in the back of this pack. And fortunately for the guys in the front, man, I'll tell you what, there hasn't been much going on up there as far as wrecks. They've stayed pretty clean. You just got to hope you don't get in that sucker hole and go all the way to the back. Chris Walker, one of those guys that had to recover kind of from going to the back farther, but Chris Walker all the way, it looks like on my screen, showing up in the 5th spot right now, so a great comeback for him, but he's going to have to get it done without his teammate.
Well, a tough break there for Jackson Anderson, who gets turned around and kind of pinballed all over the place on the back straightaway, and we had talked about him a little bit earlier. Now he's going to be coming from behind the 8 ball as well. Let's get one more angle of this. You can kind of see the wider shot of everything that happens, because there's a secondary incident with Osbornoth on the bottom. And we're going to see it right here. So watch Osbornoth. The bottom lane gets offset. They check up, and Duelbon gets in the back of him. Osbornoth goes to his left, collects Corbett, and then Duelbon comes back across and collects Alan Martin, Matt Patton, Carmine Caruso involved as well. And then Patton actually gets up in the wall up here. Does he collect any more cars? He does not. The 83 gets slowed down right before he gets on scene. And for Matt Patton, that's going to be the end of his night. He's already used a fast repair, and he has called it an evening. And for the 3-car, a tough break to end his night. See Zach Range coming along. Boy, who needed that caution more than Zach Range in the 043? We saw him get turned on the backstretch and said he needed a caution. He gets the caution and now is very, very much alive at the tail end of this race. And now he's got some helpers. Jackson Anderson, Trevor Osbornoth, Sean Corbett back there. And we know for a fact, Mike, coming to 2 laps to go, those guys are going to have to be on the move.
Yeah, they're going to have to be on the move, man. There is no time to be wasted here right now. We're actually going to pop in the 55 machine here of Mike Davenport. Mike Davenport, you got a copy?
Yeah, I got you, boss.
All right, man. We're not gonna say that J word right now, but I'll tell you right now, you're doing a great job here tonight in that 55 machine, boss. You avoided a wreck earlier that maybe saved your race here tonight. Walk us through that and what you're gonna do here to close out top 13 finish.
Yeah, that was pretty fortunate to make it through that wreck. Getting a good run, trying to come through the field there on the top, and pretty much as soon as I got up there, the seas unparted, if you will, kind of blocked the way, and was fortunate enough to pull around there. Kind of been picking off spots here. Was up in the top 5 there. Those guys on the bottom got a good run. Just hoping that I can get a good restart here. Definitely don't want to go backwards any here. I'm kind of floating around the bubble, but gonna keep going forward like I've been the whole race.
Well, Mike, nice to talk to us here. I know your heart's probably racing here, but we're cheering for you up here. Go get that PGR eSports 55 machine into this LCQs and/or duels on Saturday, man. Good luck.
Appreciate it.
It's good to talk to Mike Davenport there. And look, a guy that has had his fair share of success the last 6 months or so. Again, if you're not familiar, he won a championship in what is now the PGR eSports Light Series a while back. He got a PGR victory a while back. I mean, this is a guy that's had a really nice run. And what a way to cap it would be to make the dual race of the LCQ. At least give yourself an opportunity to race on Saturday. And now our attention for that, guys that have run up front tonight that are now in a bad spot, turns to guys like Trevor Osbornoth, to guys like Devin Smrecker, who is still in a spot but is in the danger zone, and Jackson Anderson and Chad Duelbon and guys like that that have been up front tonight but now find themselves in about as rough a position as you can get. Outside looking in with only 5 miles remaining. Here we go, Mike. 2 laps to go. Another late race restart. It seems like this has been a pattern in all 8 heats, and all 8 heats so far have provided an absolute barn burner of a finish.
They sure have, man. I'll tell you what, get that popcorn out. Take that sip of whatever you're drinking. This is going to be one heck of a finish here. This is the last heat of the PGR 500 here in 2025. It's the last chance for 13 drivers to get to Saturday. The pace car leading them out of turn number 4 here. All the fans on the stands, everybody watching this race here. I'll tell you what, it's going to be a heck of a finish. Could Briar LaPrade get it done? Craig Jancic made a great run to get here to the front. Pace car is going to dive off on the pit lane, and we are back green here for the last heat of the PGR 500.
Big push on the bottom right as they hit the box. Allen got to the back of Jancic. It will not be enough to get him clear. Jancic drags the brake. Back to RP Allen. They try to get that lane rolling. Back further. Osronaut's in a bit of a hornet's nest in the middle of the pack. He's trying to make something happen as they work their way up the banking. LaPrade with Holden and Gray on the outside. On the inside, it's Jancic, RP Allen, Chris Walker, Jack Clemens, and Mike Davenport onto the Daytona Superstretch. If they make it back, they'll see the white flag.
I'll tell you what, that 9 of Christopher Blanchard, he is getting shoved hard by Tahan here. Is he going to be able to make a move, or is he going to stay in line and stay behind Gray? Right now, the move is to stay in line. The 7 is swiping all over the place. Let's see what happens. Trevor Nash went off a little bit farther back in the air. There goes the 7 to the middle. He's going to hang out Blanchard. Is anyone going to go with him? He's going to think better to get to the top here, and we have 1 lap to go.
Towards turn 1, Briar LaPrade continues to look in the mirror and hope nothing crazy happens behind him. Jancic starts to fade on the bottom. Holden going to probably stay loyal here to the back bumper, at least until they come off the final corner. Trouble in the transfer spots. It's chaos. Blanchard involved. There's so many cars. The big one, the huge one, strikes in turn 1. A ton of cars involved. We're going to have to race it back. It's not settled yet. We'll have to get to scoring in a minute. 3-car breakaway up front. If I'm these guys, I don't think I move. LaPrade, Holden, Gray, Clemens, Walker, they may very well be in the duels. Off turn number 4, Gray's going to take a look. LaPrade may throw the block. He goes bottom to top. Don't wreck now for these spots. Gray into the fence, but it's not going to be enough. Briar LaPrade wins heat number 8, and behind them it's some chaos. Jack Clemens, welcome to the duels. Chris Walker, welcome to the duels. And from there, it is chaos for the transfer positions on back to 13th.
Yeah, that was a massive hit for Christopher Blanchard. Somebody came up the racetrack. We're going to have to go and show the viewers that last lap wreck. I'll tell you what, that was a big one here. It looks like maybe Mike Davenport, Chris Walker, they're going to get in. Travis Roberto, Jackson Anderson. Jackson Anderson, I'm not sure if that's official. It might be. Jackson Anderson in 8th. I hope to God for him and his family he gets to race this Saturday. Joey Preeb, Devin Schmecker, Chad Dulabon, Carl Lingle, Alan Martin. Looks like right now on the scoring, we'll have to get to the scoring like Dawson said, but hopefully we can go back and show you that last lap wreck, because, man, that was a hard and vicious hit.
We're going to allow LaPrade a moment to celebrate here on the front stretch as he wins heat number 8. And we took our focus off the race for the win there for a moment, but LaPrade will park it at the line and maybe take the Ryan Blaney strategy here. Does he choose not to do a burnout? Remember, Ryan Blaney was not about doing burnouts until he won the championship, and that looks to me exactly what Briar LaPrade is going to do here on the front stretch on the start-finish line. So we will give him a second, see if he celebrates. But, man, chaos, that was the biggest wreck of the week, and it happens on the final lap of the final race of the heat races, and that took out a number of cars. Now, again, unofficially, we'll have to go back and look, but Trevor Osronaut out, Craig Jancic out, Chris Blanchard out. Now, for Blanchard and Osronaut, perhaps a path still into the dual races, or excuse me, the LCQ races on Saturday afternoon because of those provisionals, but we'll have to get to that on Saturday when it comes. And now LaPrade, okay, he waited a second to get all set up on the front stretch, and he will not do a burnout, but he will run a Polish victory lap here at Daytona to celebrate his win in heat race number 8. Briar LaPrade is victorious, and as he drives it down to pit road and starts to burn it down right here on the flat. And we're going to give him a second still to celebrate. He's still working on it. Let's see if he goes for it here at the start-finish line. Oh, boy. Oh, bit of a contentious moment there. As LaPrade starts to celebrate, we're going to go back and take a look at this last lap, because this last wreck in turn 1 had to have collected 15 race cars at least. So we got to the white flag. Go ahead, Mike.
Yep, sorry. No, I was looking down here on the bottom of the racetrack. Chris Walker in the 23 is pushing offset right on RP Allen, who's pushing offset right on Craig Jancic. I mean, look at those 3 cars all in a tandem offset. I mean, I believe Walker actually had somebody behind him here. I mean, this is crazy. You just see these cars kind of lined up the way they are. And then I think that was Clemens behind Walker. And then as soon as Walker gets to the 3 of Allen, he gets to the right rear of the 88. And that's going to send the 88 to the apron, back up the track, gets into Allen. Man, Blanchard, he was literally about, a car length away from making it to the duels on Saturday. He's going to get taken out. So is Tahan. Clemens, man, he's going to drive right underneath that. Walker's lucky he was able to avoid the most of it, as well as Davenport. But what a wreck here coming out of turn number 2.
Yeah, this is insanity in turn 1. We're going to have to take multiple looks because there are a ton of cars in this wreck. And they may have actually wrecked up in front of this as well, so we'll have to look at that also. But Trevor Osronoth is kind of who we focused on because he was the one that was the closest to the middle, just to see, in fact, who all got involved in this. Again, look up ahead at Craig Jancic as the field takes the white flag, and he's going to catch a really offset push from RP Allen. And like you said, they're kind of offset right, and offset right going into one right here. Look at that formation. Oh, it actually, hold on a minute. This was 2 different incidents. I didn't see this the first time. Watch Schmecker in the 26 and Caruso in the 44 in the middle of your screen. It's the 2 white and blue cars. The 44 gets the wall, and now watch Schmecker drive right through the back of the 44 almost at the same time that the 88 and the 3 start to wreck. It's almost synchronized here. The 44 gets turned. Oh, man, you want to talk about luckiest driver of the weekend? I think it might be Mike Davenport. He just gets shot once to his left and is able to keep his foot in it. Blanchard is almost up into the industrial park outside turn number 2 as he's in the catch fencing. Allen.
You got to go to the cockpit there, Blanchard. I mean, he is in the catch fence, just riding the catch fence with all 4 tires, man. Something I've never really seen here. That was incredible.
Yeah, we got a few onboards to look at, so bear with us here. We're going to look at a few of these that are kind of coming through this wreck. Corbett, Caruso, the 30 of Lingle. There you see Jancic, Range, Osronoth, Allen, Martin. Oh, my goodness. This is a massive wreck. There are a ton of cars in this. All right, let's go back. We're going to take a look at a couple of different onboard cameras. We'll go first to the Blanchard one. And I'll warn you, motion sickness may be a problem in this one, the way he was flying through the air. So look away very quickly if that's the case. But let's go on board first with Chris Blanchard. We're going to go to the roll bar, actually. This might be a better look at it. Yep. So let's go on board to the roll bar. He's about to take the white flag. And at this point, he's P6 on the racetrack. And unfortunately, he's not going to end that way. Get ready for this ride along. This one is violent here into turn 1. Oh. And he kind of vaults into the fence, blinks out, may have ended up in the industrial park outside the racetrack there. So for Chris Blanchard, a tough break for him as he was running P6. Let's go to Jackson Anderson. We got a request to look at Jackson Anderson as well. He ends up in. Look at where he's running right here. He is not anywhere really close to a transfer position. He's hoping for that chaos. I mean, he's 20th. And somehow ends up position number 8, Jackson Anderson in the 83. Look at this wild ride through the wreck on the last lap at Daytona. Oh my goodness, just keeps his foot into the C's part, and all of a sudden you look up, oh man, I'm only behind 7 cars. And he drives forward and gets into the LCQ race, and what a great story it is for Jackson Anderson. His weekend continues. And the finish, I mean, it was, in terms of the actual finish to the race, I mean, there was some blocking up here between these 3 leaders, but it was really nothing major because these 3 guys, the last thing you want to do if you're in the top 3 is wreck each other out of the race. Ooh, Kyle Holden and Wyatt Gray, LaPrade and Wyatt Gray. They're a little bit lucky right there, I think. That was a lot closer for comfort than I thought it was initially. At the end of the day, it is Briar LaPrade that gets the job done in heat number 8. What a chaotic finish. So much to sort out when we get to Saturday. But let's look at your results as of this second as to who is in and who is out. Briar LaPrade wins heat number 8. He is in the dual race number 2 on Saturday evening. Kyle Holden joins him in the duel with a second-place finish. So does Wyatt Gray in the 054. Jack Clemens in the 20 races all the way from at one point 19th to 4th there on the final lap, and he gets into the duel as well. And Chris Walker for the Jack Shack is in the duel, also in position number 5. Mike Davenport, you talked to him on the last restart, Mike. Well, he finishes 6th, gets through the wreck, and he's in the LCQ on Saturday afternoon. Travis Roberto advances. He finishes in 7th. So does Jackson Anderson in 8th. So does Joey Preeb in 9th. Devin Smrecker finishes in 10th with Chad Doulaban 11th. Carl Lingle 12th. And the final man in as of right now is Alan Martin in 13th.
Yeah, Alan Martin in 13th. Man, that last transfer spot. Getting word from race control. It looks like this top 13 is locked and loaded. No EOLs here on the final lap. We got a couple drivers saying there was maybe a lane change by Joey Preeb. We'll have to see if we get any word on that, if that is reviewed. But as of right now, the top 13 stands. Unfortunate for Dwayne Young there. I know he's the one, I believe, looking for that lane change, as he is the one on the outside looking in right now. So Zach Range, a guy's raced here before. He's outside that top 13. Trevin Ashford, you spoke about him. Corbett, some Blanchard. Man, that was bad luck for him. Just calamity here in the 8th and final heat of the PGR 500. Kind of knew that was going to happen here. A lot of guys that have been itching all week, the last heat, waiting all this time to race, and a lot of action here in the middle and the back of the pack. And looking at some of the announcements here, it looks like, we spoke about him. Ethan Eckert will be on the pole for Sunday's feature of the PGR 500, as he did not even race his way out of his heat. So that qualifying position and all that practice all week long is going to pay off. And a big announcement here, it's going to be Daniel Falkingham and Matthew Zwack. They're going to queue off tomorrow for the outside pole. Both of them, though, locked in, I believe, to the duels. If I'm not mistaken, they both took top 5. I know at least one of them did. You might know yourself, Dawson, but that'll be a queue off here, the first ever queue off here for the PGR 500.
Yeah, so Zwack and Falkingham are both in. We'll note that here in a second when we get to our schedule. They're both in regardless of who gets second and who ends up in position number 3 technically overall. They are both in, as far as I remember, to the either the duel. They might both actually be in the duel race as of earlier tonight. So nothing to worry about in terms of that, but obviously would like to go ahead and lock yourself in, not risk the end of a duel race here at Daytona. A couple housekeeping things, and then we're going to do a few things here before we go off the air tonight. We're going to start. We'll do the rest of your finishing results, and you see them on your screen. We'll go through them really quickly. Here's what the guys are out of the PGR 500 as of now. A couple guys we'll mention in a moment that may still be racing on Saturday due to some provisionals. Dwayne Young in 14th. He is eliminated. So too is Adam Tahan, Zach Range, Jordan Stencil in 17th, Greg Jancic in 18th. Trevor Osmonath, keep an eye on him. He potentially could be in on Saturday due to a provisional. We'll keep an eye on that storyline. Renee Hasp in 20th is eliminated. So is Sean Corbett in 21st. Richard Wolfsfer 22nd. Justin Byers 23rd. And R.P. Allen is 24th. Chris Blanchard, despite that bad luck on the last lap, also may be in by virtue of a provisional. We'll find out on Saturday afternoon. Carmine Caruso eliminated in 26th. Noah Rainwater in 27th. Kevin Champagne in 28th. Matthew Patton in 29th were the only cars to take a lap in tonight's race. Now, we were hearing about a lane change. The great thing about replays is we can go check and see. So I'm assuming, Mike, I want to double check real quick that we're talking about the restart here. And we're talking about the same car. It's Joey Preeb. Is that, do I have that accurate?
Yes, you do.
Okay, so let's take a look. We're going to go to Joey Preeb, and we're going to do the chopper cam. This is the fun thing about replays is we can take our own look and make a decision for ourselves. This is coming to the green flag. The last restart of the race. Line checks up, still checking up. Well, it wasn't Joey Preeb. The lane change comes from further behind. It's Trevor Osronath that goes to the top side.
Yeah.
And Renee Hasp, which both of them were technically eliminated from transfer spots anyway, so I don't really think any harm, any foul there. Joey Preeb, fully innocent in the 87, and Preeb races his way into a spot in 9th. He'll be racing on Saturday afternoon, but did want to at least give it a due diligence and take a look at it. But now, as we have that out of the way, ladies and gentlemen, the heat races are complete. We have now set the entire field for Saturday afternoon's Last Chance Qualifiers and Saturday afternoon's VRX Simulators dual races. All will be broadcasted here on the PGR eSports Network. Before that, and we're going to have to do some logistical planning, be on the lookout for a last-minute, impromptu, very short broadcast tomorrow night of the qualifying battle, the dash for second, as we may call it, between Daniel Falkingham and Matthew Zwack. We may try to bring that coverage to you tomorrow night to see who is going to be the Apex Racing Society outside pole sitter for the PGR 500. So keep an eye out for that. That'll be tomorrow night at some point. We don't have a time at this point. We'd like to bring that live to you, so be on the lookout. Subscribe to the channel here at PGR Esports. Hit the little bell icon. You'll know when we're going live if we do choose to bring that action to you tomorrow night. It's going to be a fun concept as those two race for second qualifying position. As for Saturday afternoon, we're going to be live before 12 p.m., probably around 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time for the Last Chance Qualifier events as we start to whittle down the field to 43 to start Sunday afternoon's PGR 500. Those two Last Chance Qualifiers will go off at noon and 1:30 p.m. Eastern here on PGR Esports Network. We'll then take a break between the second Last Chance Qualifier and the beginning of the VRX Simulators Duels. Those broadcasts will go live somewhere around 3:30 on the East Coast, with the first race to go green around 4 p.m. Eastern. The second race will go green around 5:30 p.m. Eastern as we finish up setting the 43-car field for Sunday afternoon's PGR 500. Note for that race will go green around 3 p.m. on Sunday. The pre-race show will start sometime around 2:30 p.m. Eastern on Sunday afternoon back here on PGR Esports Network. Well, Mike, the heat races are over. We've set now about half of the field. We've whittled down half the field, and set the field for Saturday. And if this week was any indication, Saturday is going to be an incredible day of racing and an intense couple of races in the LCQs, and even more intense couple of races in the dual races. As guys see that opportunity start to become a reality, things are going to get bigger and better and more exciting as we get closer to Saturday evening. What a week of heat races, Mike. I think we've set ourselves up perfectly for this weekend.
Yeah, we sure have, and this weekend's going to be a lot different than these heat races. You're going to have a 32-car field in both the LCQs. You're going to have a 40-car field in both of the duels. You're going to have realistic weather, so the weather is going to be changing dramatically throughout the course of the race. It's going to be realistic to what it is in Daytona, this weekend. So that's going to change everything. Just the car count in general. You're going from 30 in a heat now to upwards of 40 drivers in a dual race, and with a little bit narrowness of Daytona compared to Talladega. Man, I'll tell you what, we are in for a treat. I know James Wagner, he is the title sponsor of the PGR 500. He was granted the first entry into the feature when he bailed out of his heat this past week. So he was the first one in, Ethan Eckert the second one in, and we are just going to be waiting on that cue off for tomorrow to get our third driver that will lock themselves in. And we're going to lock everyone else in on Saturday. So it's going to be one heck of a day of racing. 4 races to set the field for the PGR 500. And I'm excited to watch it. This has been a great week of racing here on the PGR Esports Network. I'm just excited. I wish I was racing still, but I'm very excited to hop up in race control and/or some of these broadcasts and be able to just kind of watch these drivers. We have a great list of drivers that have made the weekend here, and we'll see the cream probably rise to the top when we get to Sunday afternoon and we get to the closing laps of the 500. We'll probably have a good idea. It'll come from a handful of drivers, but nonetheless, man, it's been an exciting time here. I'm already looking forward to next year, already planning next year. I know Matthew Baker and I, this is news to anyone watching, next year's qualifying will be just a hair different. We are going to be taking the top 2 qualifiers in each heat next year, hoping to get 300 entries. And those top 2 qualifiers are going to race a shootout race on Friday night, so for the top 2 spots. So always being innovative here at PGR Esports, learning a lot from this first go-around here with the inaugural PGR 500, and we're going to learn a lot more on Saturday too, so looking forward to the weekend here.
Certainly will be a fun weekend, and we've set it up extremely well here for the PGR 500. Before we leave, again, want to thank everyone for coming out throughout the week from Tuesday to now and watching these heat races. Stick around for this weekend. I promise the action's only going to get better as we get inch closer and closer to the first ever running of the Great American Sim Race on Sunday afternoon here on PGR Esports Network. Again, 11:30 Eastern Time is going to be our start time for the broadcast on Saturday for the LCQ races, followed immediately by the broadcast for the VRX Simulators Duels. And of course, Sunday will be the first ever running of the PGR 500 around 2:30 will be the go live time for that broadcast. As for tomorrow night, we're going to work through some logistics. I want to bring that action to you all between Daniel Falkingham and Matthew Zwack as they fight to see who will join Ethan Ecker on the front row of the first ever PGR 500. Again, I want to thank everyone for coming out. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Don't miss a second of the action coming up this weekend here for PGR Esports. For my co-host Michael Triscaro, for my co-hosts earlier, Austin Green and Landon Velicki, my name is Dawson Wise. Come back on Saturday. I'll have you all through the afternoon into the evening